discussion about our newly formed Arts Commission and provide them with some direction, and then have a really fun and lively conversation about where we currently are with ODOT and our planning of the US 26 Vista Loop and Eyck pedestrian improvement plan. Councilor Exter and I were in the car together today, driving around that, looking at it, pulling the hair we had left out of our heads.
You have more hair than I do.
I know.
He's been driving.
That's why I was looking at you, sir.
Everybody else has more hair than well, some of us do.
The other item that we'll be talking about on our agenda is the adoption of our budget. So as we go through our adoption process, George, Tyler, this is my first approval of the budget, and there's been a couple. I know we have the urban renewal fund budget as well as our general fund budget, but we've had discussions as far as we have a budget committee recommendation, right? And then if we as a council want to make any tweaks to that, we got to make some amendments. And then where does the fee and, you know, because the budget recommendation had that gap in it that we needed to fill. How's that process working out tonight? What do we need to know going into this meeting?
It's actually pretty similar to the budget committee process where they, and you as part of that, made an amendment to the proposed budget. You're essentially making another amendment, but you're making an amendment to the budget committee's approved budget. So at the work session, it seemed like there was a majority councilors that were interested in adding additional revenue to the police department from an outside source. And so the budget committee's budget includes $370,000 more in outside revenue. If the council wants to modify that, you can add even more to that number, you know, up to 550 or whatever that number was. That's Tyler. And then we'll bring back next week as part of your work session on the 11th, a draft ordinance and more information about how we're going to implement a public safety fee that would then supply that revenue to the police department.
So, okay, perfect. So in front of us tonight is the recommendations from the budget committee. And I know that we as a council had some conversations about some tweaks we might want to make to that at our last work session. We'll have to make those motions and amendments tonight during our discussion of the adoption.
Right, you'll hold the public hearing first
Yep.
on the budget committee's recommended budget, hear any public testimony as part of that, and then have deliberations where then you can make modifications to that budget.
Do you have a script for me for that, Terry?
Yeah, wing it.
There is 3 resolutions, 4 if you include the urban renewal agencies.
And so on all those, are we gonna have to open for public hearing on each one? Okay.
Yeah. You will have to convene as the Sandy Urban Renewal Agency.
We're gonna do that first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's 11.1.
Yes.
All right. Any questions on that process? All right, so then we'll start off our work session tonight with the Arts Commission direction. Tyler or Jordan?
Heather, take her away.
Just pull it up really fast, sorry. So I guess let me give you a little bit of background. The Arts Commission was formed in 2017 and with the previous council. And it took quite a while for that program to get off the ground. We hired an independent contractor, Zach Chamberlain, who helped sort of research art commissions and what their role should be and how that can be used within the city. And Zach left us about a month or so ago and had another employment opportunity. So I stepped in as the staff liaison for the Arts Commission. And I think that given the new staff liaison and the new council, the newish council, not new, but you know, we're 5 months in for some of you, it might be a good opportunity to just look at what the Arts Commission has been doing, get some input from the 2 commissioners that are here as far as what they've done so far, what projects they have kind of in the works, and then get council's feedback and direction on ultimately what they want to continue to see the Arts Commission doing. What they see as staff's role with the Arts Commission, and kind of just a broad overview altogether.
Well, they got you, so they got the purse strings.
I guess so, right? I don't know if they feel that way, but. So Becky, I don't know if you wanted to come up and join the table. I know that the commission kind of, I don't know if you volunteered or if the commission nominated you.
They
They actually selected me to participate, so, and with the direction of, you know, the two things that they had on their mind. Okay, so,
Welcome.
By the way, Pamela, back in the back there, is Emma Skistad, she's also on the commission, so, I guess if you have any additions, you'll have a hard time breaking in because this group is a big talking bunch.
We'll probably come sit up here.
Yeah, we have.
We have.
Oh, we can have
Chance.
another chair. Is there another chair?
Yeah, there.
Here, okay, one here.
We've got one actually right here already.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just
Either way.
all my stuff anyway.
I didn't see that one. I'll scoot over.
And again, Becky, let me just, a little bit of add on there. Becky was selected by the rest of the commission to kind of represent them in terms of conversation. But they have a couple of things that are really kind of on their minds that are really needing to have a decision by the council, and I think that's what you're gonna start off with right away. And then there's a number of other issues that come along, and hopefully we'll get through those two there. A little longer term kind of things, but certainly are important to kind of talk about. So when we get to the end of time, probably, rather than to finish it up, expect to do that.
Okay, so I don't know what your habits are, but I sent a report more or less, just so you'd be more familiar with it in case I start rambling. The first thing of concern to us is the Peaceful Vistas mural on the Ace Hardware. And I actually spoke to Roger back around the time that Tracy Brown had put out the RFP for restoration in 2013, and Roger was looking at the mural and talking about the need to refurbish it and everything, and that project was never done. So if you saw the pictures in there, how much it's deteriorated from then until now. And in addition, I didn't show, because I didn't think the camera would pick it up, there are vertical cracks in the substrate now also, which once that fails, there's just nothing you can do at all. So we're concerned about the deterioration and feel that if at all possible, if we could get that mural restored this year, that would be wonderful. The one on City Hall is not as critical, but we thought since you're doing the lovely remodel, now would be a good time to get that done. And I've done some testing on it, and we'll be communicating the results of the tests.
Testing what cleans,
We cleaned.
what products are clean.
We cleaned part of it, and there's a film on it, which is supposed to be a clear sealer, which is now chalky and kind of falling off in places, especially where I wiped it off. And what I'm trying to do is figure out the best cleaning solution for it and recoating solution. And it's not a big, I don't think going to be a big expensive project, because the paint, other than on the little white horses, the paint is there. It just needs a little bit of touch up, and then it needs new clear coat.
So on the Ace Hardware mural, so it's cleanup as well as like a sealant that we need to go through. What is?
Oh, it needs to be cleaned.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you can show the pictures, I don't have.
Well, I looked at.
Okay, the paint literally, the way it was constructed, Roger used a traditional house paint on the whole background, and you would normally even do that in a painting. It's a blue, and then you start putting your details in a higher quality artist's acrylic on top of that background. And that background, if you think about painting your house, you use the semi-gloss, the better paint on the trim and so on, and you usually use flat on the field of the house. Well, that's basically how that mural is constructed. So the flat paint or the thinner coat is deteriorated and gone. Well, the thicker paint and the heavier details are still remaining, but if we don't catch them pretty soon, they're gonna be gone. At this point, it's a little bit like a paint by number project, where you have the pattern there, you have the colors, although they're quite faded, they could be renewed. And our sense is that we want your direction. First of all, if you would, two things you may consider are having a restoration company come in, getting bids and doing the whole thing with a restoration company. The second thing to consider would be to have community volunteers restore the paint and then have a professional company with an airless sprayer come in to put the clear sealer back on, a couple coats of the clear sealer. And then that, if it's renewed properly every few years, I'm gonna say probably 7 years, 10 years maybe, is what you would get out of that clear sealer. So if you were to put the murals on a rotating schedule, where you would only do a couple murals in 1 year, that would be a better program.
Sure.
And you have time on Centennial mural, it's still in really good, the sealer isn't still in.
What's your
really good.
recommendation?
For Vista, my recommendation to the group was that you do the project this year, and it's really up to you to decide which way you wanna go. I can tell you that a restoration, full restoration from a restoration company is gonna be very expensive.
What's very expensive?
Well, I'm going to say that to have that mural painted now would probably run you around $20,000 to $30,000. To have it restored at this point, because you have to take off stuff and put stuff back on, is going to be less than that, but I wouldn't think you'd probably get it done for less than $10,000 to have because the restoration company, the one I found in Portland, was $125 an hour.
Do you have, are there people that you know in the community that would be willing and able and
There are
capable?
two sitting here,
I kind of
Easy to
figured, I didn't want to make
expect
assumptions, but I kind of figured, yeah.
and I've painted murals before, and so if the council decides that they want to go the direction of getting the restoration company, that's up to you, your staff, and whatever. If you decide you want to go toward the volunteer route, if your funds would pay for the materials, you know, the paint and and then you hire the sealer, I feel confident that we could clean it, paint it, and get it ready for the sprayer.
Do you do it while it's still hanging, or do we take it down and do it in a?
Well, it's hanging.
We can do
While
it
it's
hanging.
okay.
I can go, I have a gantry that I've used for previous murals, and I can go up to 13 feet, and I measured it, and that's exactly what Vista is.
Couple of issues. One is, would it be ethical for Becky to do the work and be on the Arts Commission?
At no
I guess?
charge.
At no charge. That's the way to get around that?
I'm not a contractor anymore, and technically to work on a building, that's real estate now. And I would have to have a contractor's license in order to work on that mural and charge you. And that's true for anyone who works on that mural, it's a part of that building now. And it's real estate, so technically you're painting, you need a contractor's license. Okay, I was a contractor, but retired, and I'm not charging it's a volunteer thing. You can have anyone in the community volunteer to do things like that. And I feel as a volunteer, I'm not getting paid, so I don't see a conflict from that point of view.
Is it a project you guys wanna tackle? It sounds like it is.
I think it's something we'd be willing to tackle. I think it's only fair to say that there are some, on our committee who do not agree that it should be done by volunteers, particularly our chair, who feels pretty strongly that it should be done professionally. So,
The other piece to
those
that
are
is,
the options.
from a budget standpoint, the Arts Commission has $8,000 allocated for the upcoming biennium.
And would this come out of the art commission budget?
Right. So I think that's the direction that we need to get from council tonight is what is their budget? What do you envision their budget to be used for? And if it's not for these types of projects, where are those funds coming from? Which might be a larger conversation than just, tonight, but that's something we need to look at.
And I think there was also some question about whether or not urban renewal.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Jan?
I would like to see us accept their very generous offer, and they seem well qualified, and then if we need to do the coatings of the protective material, maybe that could be done for $8,000.
Oh, already have an estimate
Oh.
for the Thomas mural in the front of City Hall, which was to clean it and seal it, and I think it was $450.
Oh, well.
But the particular substance that they use is about $85 a gallon and $30 of hazmat shipping. So if you order a whole bunch of it, like 4 gallons of it, it's less expensive. It's only still $30 to ship, and I'm so cheap. But the sealer, if I were to take you all up there and show you what was done wrong before, the reason I'm suggesting an airless sprayer is because it was put on by roller before. Now you can use a pad which doesn't trap air. I don't know if you've seen the kind. And yeah, it's kind of a fuzzy pad, and you can draw it down, and it doesn't leave the bubbles that a roller will leave. It's not trapping the air. So you can use a pad, but an airless sprayer is
So,
very quick.
so I see two decisions here, right? So one is as a council, we're gonna have to allocate some funds here, okay, right? Whether it's the volunteer route, there's some money associated with that, or it's the full restoration company, there's money associated. So first decision, do we want to restore this mural?
Yes,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right? I'm 100% on board with that. I walk my kids through there and I go, that was Jan's, he used to walk up and get stuff and take them through those floors. So the second on that,
Make a modification to that first one?
yeah,
I think Becky was talking about going through and looking at the other murals and making sure we don't get into this boat. Because that mural's 20-plus years old, and you're saying that the coverage is like the 10 years worth of a lifetime. You probably want to do something to the other murals before we get into this boat as well.
right. I guess I feel like the first decision's kind of easy.
Sure.
The second one is the harder decision. And for me, and this is like, I only met you two here tonight. You both seem very competent and well qualified. I have no idea whether or not you're qualified as volunteers to restore this mural. Yeah.
I would be willing, I sent some pictures of murals that I did
Yeah.
to David already. And you could look at Pam's painter, and I also paint paintings, but I have done like 60 by 16 foot mural, 30 by whatever. I can actually show you, and Pam can show you the quality of our painting. I would not expect you to just trust us because we talk a game.
Right.
I would expect you to vet us.
Right.
As
No, there's no offense, I just literally have no idea. You would not want me to restore it. I can tell you that.
So,
Yeah.
so I would expect that. So in your thinking, if there is a huge amount of difference between what it would cost to have volunteers do it
Uh-huh.
and then just spray it out professionally and have a restoration company do it.
Uh-huh.
So it's your decision. We just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah,
and then, it's like we just did the one out here in the park, and she just showed us what she could do, and we were like, that's great, let's do it. And I think that's so cool to have multiple murals in our town that have been done or restored by our people.
I agree. Carl, Jeremy?
Have to say, Becky and Pamela come highly recommended. I do know them from working with them in the Art Commission and some of the other things that are happening around the community. They may not be the best experts in the world, but they're the best experts we've probably got in the city of Sandy. They have done a lot of these kind of things in the past, both with murals and with painting and with other. So to say that these gals are probably as quality and as expert as we could probably expect to get, except maybe from some very worldwide kind of a company, it's probably not understating it.
Okay.
They come pretty highly qualified.
Good enough.
They would do a
It
great
would
job.
be nice to have a good solid bid from a professional. Part of the problem with that is finding that person and getting it done in a timely manner.
David,
Which, time is really critical here.
Yeah, the substrate's for our.
yeah, and David,
You don't
and I,
wanna lose that.
yeah, I gave David the restoration company that I got through the Regional Arts Council, and he has contacted them asking for a bid, but their bid is about $500, just so you know.
Jeremy?
Have you guys talked to Roger Cook?
He passed away.
Oh, he passed away, okay.
And his family doesn't have records to show what he did, but there are some older photographs that are more color correct
Sure.
for us to go.
I was just wondering if it was okay. I know artists don't like other people touching their art, or maybe family members. If that was
You'll
gonna be
find
okay.
that with your centennial mural, but Roger and his family would be very supportive of restoring the mural.
And if I remember correctly, because this has been here for what, 20 years?
Is it 93?
Is that what it's?
93 for Rogers.
So the building has actually been recited since then. Actually, just here, I'm looking at Mike. Mike would probably be the one that remembers the historical things around town there. But we did that within some of the urban renewal while I've been on council. So I'm assuming that thing had to come off and then back on again.
It's put up there with
Been damaged.
screws.
Okay. And then I believe when we did the Centennial Plaza mural, that was done with urban renewal money. But you'd have to go back and check on that. And I don't see what would preclude any of the maintenance of murals or future murals to not be able to be included in an urban renewal funding aspect. If we're looking for funding for this, that is I believe part of the definition what could be used for urban renewal.
Part of the urban renewal plan, under the streetscape and civic area projects, that discusses public art and murals, so it's specifically in
Right.
there.
So I wouldn't be in favor of taking away maybe the 8,000 that has been allocated for 2 years, 4,000 for all the stuff that they may have to do as a committee. I think that we could, one possibility is to take it from urban renewal to add in for that as a funding mechanism.
We haven't got to that point yet, but they have some other expenses that they are gonna probably take out of that $8,000. But that's also a question about, there really is no formal format for being able to spend that $8,000. Who gets to spend that? I think council probably would be good to give them sort of some direction about how to make those other things come out of that $8,000. But I guess I'm in Jeremy's corner a lot in this. I think that the urban renewal dollars is a great place to take care of some of these larger pieces of art that are going downhill, and it wouldn't even be, in my mind, a problem to take a look at some of the other things that are happening that need to be fixed and cleaned and repaired and protected, which I know that the Art Commission has gone through a process they haven't finished yet of reevaluating, looking at the art in the city, trying to figure out what's wrong, what needs to be fixed. There's been conversations about the waterfall on the west end of town, some other relook at all the other pieces of art that are around. So there's more stuff to come.
So that would be my direction, would be to put together a plan to put in front of our urban renewal board, because that's where that decision would be made on current maintenance that needs to happen to our art around town, as well as an overall plan on the update every 7 to 8 years, and on the ongoing maintenance that needs to happen to restore those. But I don't view those items as something that should come out of the Arts Commission budget. We should put together almost a sidestep plan in our urban renewal for art, that then, you know, they're continually coming in front of the urban renewal board and asking for allocations of those funds. So I'll go Lori and then Jan.
Well, and then as far as like their money for the Arts Commission, I would like to know what they would like to prioritize and what they feel that money should be used for, as opposed to council making that decision.
Yeah.
Sure, I think that's the next conversation in a row, but this is, these two items, these two murals, especially Rogers, are kind of in a crisis mode. We almost gotta move forward now if we're gonna be able to save them, and I think that's something that they brought here, they're very concerned about.
Because I view that $8,000, we'll get into this next, but I view that budget allocation more for administration and then maybe little project promotions throughout the year, like what's happening right now with the sidewalk,
Chalk art.
chalk art and all that, right? It's certainly not a big enough budget for ongoing maintenance of these large murals. Tyler? Oh, sorry, I'll come back.
I would like to add that the urban renewal plan, that talks about the public art and murals mentions just improvements in a general sense, so I would like to confirm with our legal counsel before we make any allocations for urban renewal that this is considered an improvement, because it's really, it's restoration, so I just wanna make sure from a legal perspective, we're using the murals correctly before we commit anything.
Yeah, well, we'd need the urban renewal agency
Right,
too.
just that caveat, that there might be another conversation about that.
And that was the point that I had, if we can't do other maintenance with urban renewal, I'm not sure how we could do art maintenance. I think maintenance may not be urban renewal, but having the attorney decide that would be.
Yeah.
Restoration. So it'd be the difference between maintenance and restoration.
Yeah.
You could always add my picture to each mural.
Yeah.
Oh, Definitely agreed with
Because
that.
it's
No.
white.
Well, actually, in the art world, if you make a copy of a painting and the artist takes one stroke on that copy,
Yeah.
it's now a new original. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
Okay, just detail there.
All right. So we- did we
I will add, we did not mention, and I didn't intend to necessarily tonight, but the mural that's on the end of the community center, we washed it, and I think I sent out a thing showing the difference between dirty and clean, but also wet. Now that difference, a lot of that, what you see in that is, it's like spitting on a rock and how pretty it is when it's wet. With the mural, with the new sealer on it, that's what it will look like. That differential is what you'll see. But what I'm trying to find out now is original pictures of the mural new, to see how much the paint has faded. Before making a proposal, we would like to decide whether it needs to have some touch-up paint.
Have you chatted with the
So-
Historical Society?
Yes, and we've been tracking down person after person, and I finally went through the books at the senior center to find a picture of its inaugural.
One of the museum people are on our commission, so it's.
Yeah,
Brian
I'm
Sanders,
well aware.
yeah, so we got that covered pretty much.
The Post might have it too.
Yeah, so now we at least have an idea of the date it was done and can do a little bit more research, but I'm trying to find a photograph that wasn't in the newspaper. So that'll come later.
Do we need a motion about the restoration, get them, have come back to us, or some direction about?
Well, I feel like
We already have, I
We-
know.
We need to check with the city attorney,
Yeah,
make
check.
sure it's an allowable expense, or how we need to phrase it, for it to be an allowable expense. And then we'd need to convene the urban renewal.
Well, and then in that, we'll need a staff recommendation on the process to move forward, whether we do a volunteer restoration or a full restoration.
Yeah, I mean, there's a strong spirit of volunteers in this community, building
Yep.
trails and bridges and all the rest, so I'm sure.
We're basically Tennessee.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fun.
So I'm sure.
Then the other one was the budget. Sounds like, you know, that the budget, the $8,000 that was allocated through the budget system from last year even, was more for their kind of smaller needs, use as administration, so on, and they would come to us for the larger, and that's what the council wants to do.
That's how I view it.
I view it that, and it's maybe not just to us, our urban renewal
Mhm.
district,
Sure.
if
Yeah.
that, being- if legal is all in agreement, but where funds like that would have
Mhm.
been designated for.
And then utilizing both, you know, Carl for direction on those things, on where those asks should go, as well as Tyler.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There was one other thing that really was high on their list, and I don't
Okay.
wanna steal their thunder, but I want, we only got 30 minutes
You
left
want a
over.
new council representative?
I want to thank you for giving us Carl. He is invaluable.
Wow, how much do you pay it?
We'll talk about that later.
I really enjoy working with Carl, and he's been a good supporter of us. And we had our first meeting October, just October, so,
Last year, not 2017.
yeah, just this last October. And so we are doing a small project, which doesn't seem small to us because we're the ones putting the time in on it. But, and I know Becca Reel's third grade is participating. There's about 7 kids in there that are participating, and
My
so-
daughter's one of them.
And so,
Yeah.
if you're a judge, you'll be recusing yourself.
I know the winner.
But, so far, we haven't had very many applications for the chalk art contest, but I think, next year, even if it is the 7 kids, I would really love to see us spend time going out to the schools, start early in the school year, and engaging them, because when they learn about, rain down the drain, they will remember that, and a lot of adults don't know where that water goes, and.
They and their parents will remember that for life.
Yeah.
I think this was Carl's idea, and I think it's a fabulous idea. And,
Actually, it wasn't my
it's a
idea,
wonderful
but-
educational opportunity. We've run into some roadblocks, and time is a huge one, but we've had a hard time getting things done in a timely manner, and we've put a lot of time into every aspect of this. And, school's only in for 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
We don't have access to
Right.
these kids beyond like this week, and so we're really scrambling, trying to do our best to touch the community and let them know about this.
So, we asked to have a representative from each of the city departments come and speak at one of our meetings to let us know their particular responsibility, each part of the city, and how we might be able to partner with them on projects, because they will, like you did the Bornstead survey, okay, so you, park, you wanna do a cover of some kind. Well, if we're familiar with the project, we might say, oh, well, what kind of structure are you contemplating, and brainstorm a little bit on how something artistic could work in a cost-effective manner from the beginning, instead of retrofitting or, you know, that kind of thing. If we can be in on the beginning of a project instead of at the end or as an afterthought, it's way more cost-effective, and it's more targeted to what the project is, I think. So we hope to hear from all the departments.
I'd like that, Carl.
Okay, and yeah, it's really crucial in that, I was knowing that the Parks Committee was going down the road of some things, and so was the Art Commission going down the road, thinking about those same kinds of things. I think it really is important that we don't duplicate. We have enough trouble getting projects done as it is. I think it's really important that they coordinate with things, and so if there's, maybe a message can be delivered to some of the committees if there's an art process. We didn't get much art conversation with the development of the pool and that kind of stuff, and there's been some thought, well, maybe we could do some art incorporation of those things. So some of the different plans that are out there, the master plans, might be worth it to incorporate art in some of those too.
Pleasant Street.
Yep.
Okay.
Good?
Okay, final question then.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a 2-part question.
Oh, Jan.
Oh, sorry.
I'm really on my game.
I was just going to ask, we talked about redoing, as you come into town, the brown and orange sign to our colors. Do we need some review by our art commission.
Sure. I think that's a
on
good
that project.
example
Mhm.
involving the Arts Commission and projects and getting
Yeah.
their input on.
Mhm.
The beige on beige sign?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Changes.
We had some steel.
That's it. She's an expert.
Some big steel.
She's more an expert than I am.
I think Jordan had already gotten a bid for making some changes, but the design itself might be good for the art commission to take a look at.
Ooh, this is where arts meets branding.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not open that can of worms right now.
Wait, I waged that word.
We're, one of the, I'm just gonna give you a synopsis of one of the things that I've been beating my head against the wall on. And that is, I'd really like to talk to Public Works because we wanna put a banner out in the grass in that intersection that says art event today. Something reusable can go up for each and every art event in town. And in order to make that a simple, efficient process, I'd really like to have 2 conduits sunk into the ground at grade, so it can be mowed over, that we can set poles in the ground, and then I wanna do a retainer pin so that in the conduit and in the pole, so that wind can't just remove the sign and make it a kite, okay? So, I haven't been able to talk to anybody about it, so I keep writing longer and longer emails. And someday, I will be able to talk to someone and explain that and see if that's something that we can work with Public Works on. Because I don't wanna go out and start driving things 16 inches into the ground, right? And you have to have it located, so you don't, you know. So we need to work with another department, but we cannot communicate directly with any department.
We've been told that we can't.
And I will
communicate
give,
directly.
Tyler props, because at least we get feedback from an email in less than 5 days.
So you're, first of all, you're residents of the
Thank you.
community of Sandy, is that correct?
Well, we're out of towners, but,
Okay.
you know, it's,
You can reach
Are you
out.
do you live in the district?
we do live in
You
the
can-
district.
I just want to make sure it's clear
This-
that any of our community members and residents can reach out to any darn staff member they want to at any moment in time in which they would like to.
Well, this has been a barrier
And
up
expect
till
an
now,
immediate
because we were
response.
told clearly we could not, we
Yeah.
had to go
It's
through our.
it's in your
Yeah,
written
it
stuff.
needs to get,
Yeah,
it
we
needs
have
to
go-
get changed.
We had to go through Zach on everything, and he wasn't available.
Yeah, it needs to get addressed.
Who's Zach? Who's Zach?
This is
Yeah.
The previous.
The previous.
Zach Chamberlain was the
plan.
original
Liaison.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh.
So here's the situation as I see it, is that they were given direction as written by the older policy that we have, that we want to keep a separation between the committees and the city managers and such. And so they've been trying to live very well with that, and it's been pretty frustrating because they haven't had a person to be able to talk to others. So between myself and Tyler, we've kind of taken that on. But I think it's important not just to talk to the directors, but to find out how to get direction. So
Yes.
who can approve that?
Yes.
How do you go to somebody to get approval for it? That was their question, is how do you do that? To get to somebody to say, I wanna spend $1,000 on that chalk art, which is a big issue right now. You wanna spend $1,000 or so, and there's no real method to do that officially now.
Mhm.
It's pretty obvious it should be done, we'd like to all do it, it's nice to be able to done, but the council hasn't really said how to do that. And it's the same thing with putting in signs. Who do they officially go to say, we'd like to get this done, and get that approval back to the commission, so that can happen? I guess that's the question.
It shouldn't be that hard.
That was
Start
the-
It
there.
shouldn't be hard at all.
Yeah.
No,
It should be very easy, but
Yeah.
it's certainly, with the way the policy is now,
Yes.
it's an obvious thing, we gotta change the policy
Yes, we
pretty
do.
quickly. But for the moment, how do you do that between now and when the council goes to that policy change?
We have to get this done.
Yeah, ASAP?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we got
So,
the proposal.
Yeah.
first of all, the commission has the ability to allocate their own dollars that we budget for them, correct? Or no?
Well, I mean, that's a question for council. That was part 2 of what I was gonna ask you was, this is the only commission that has a budget.
Right.
The planning commission doesn't have a budget. The other boards and committees don't really have a budget unless it's a meal for their quarterly, meeting that they have. So direction from council as to how that budget is going to be used and who is kind of overseeing that and what's the threshold of expenditures that they can enter into on their own, is helpful for us, for me, to know $500? Sure, go right ahead. It's 2,000. Well, let's have a larger conversation. What's the
What's the threshold?
Well, shouldn't they adopt their own annual budget and do their own?
Well, it's,
Yeah.
so I think there's two things there. One, yeah, this is kind of awkward because it is the only board commission that has a budget. And I think that, not being here, but I think maybe the understanding was that there was gonna be some funds I needed to just pay for the operations. You know, we had to hire somebody, an intern basically to get them up and running. Beyond that, it's sort of, you know, what is the horizon in terms of programs and ongoing expenses? We don't know yet, right? The budget's gonna change. This biennium was basically, there was 8,000 allocated before, let's do it again. I think in terms of like programs and expenses, you know, this is across the board with a lot of boards and commissions, but what would be really helpful for staff is if on an annual basis, the Arts Commission comes to the council and says, here's our work plan for the year, the things that we wanna do. We wanna do a chalk art permit, event that, you know, we'll need to get permit and all that. You know, we're interested in signage, you know, what are your thoughts on that? We have recommendations on a gateway piece, we like to work on a strategic, you know, master plan for public art in Sandy. And then the council, you know, has that dialogue and says, great, we approve these recommendations, you know, as you formulate these programs, come back and give us a proposal on what the cost will be, and we'll talk about budget, but or, no, we're not really interested in, you know, X, but we like, you know, Y and Z, so, you know, do those things. That gives them clear direction, gets, you know, an annual meeting set up where the Arts Commission is interfacing with the council and getting feedback and talking about art. And it makes it easy on staff because we're not doing this on a monthly basis, like, hey, council, what do you think about spending $1,000 for this? Or, you know, what do you think about signs when there's, you know, sign code and, you know, logistics of all that and expenses and things. So if we, you know, if that sounds like something the council would be interested in, I would recommend it, you know, doing this not just for the Arts Commission board, but other boards too, is having that annual meeting, that summit meeting, where you're reviewing work plans and, you know, basically approving or giving direction to these committees.
Well, that sounds like a pretty normal process.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a normal process and a good way to go, but I'd also like to throw in there that, you know, if things come up throughout the year that are small expenditures and they have agreement on.
They need to be able to spend that
They need to
money.
be able to spend that money, right? They shouldn't have to come to council for every adjustment or, hey, we wanna do this. So with that, I like that idea, but I wanna throw in something that, hey, if it's under this amount and they
Oh,
agree with it,
absolutely.
then they need to be able to
They
spend
have
it.
$8,000, if we, and that's just, again, it was thrown in there because it's not,
Sure.
until we have more experience, but in my mind, that's, you know, Tyler and I, and whoever, you know, ends up staffing long-term, or maybe it's Tyler, but, we'll just, you know, say, yeah, $450, go for it, you know, it's, and we can track that for you, get
Yeah.
a spreadsheet.
And then in the meantime, how do we go about getting them what they need now,
So,
expediently?
Right. Well, I think simple vote should be able to allocate that money right now from their commission, you know, simple votes of the commission until they're able to go through this process that we just kind of laid out. The second though is, and I know you're new to this, Tyler, but I think part of the staff liaison is to do exactly that, is to be a liaison, right? So if you're wanting to figure out to put a sign out, you know, what's the proper sign permitting, you know, who do they need to contact within our planning, who do they need to coordinate with Public Works, you know, whether it's going to be someone like Becky doing that direct reach out to the department head, or whether it's gonna be Tyler doing the, kind of, you know, the liaisoning, you know, work that out, you know, at your meeting when you guys are talking about those things, but I think, especially, I mean, let's not be getting to, you know, deputy, but I mean, if you need to send a email to Kelly in planning about a sign, copy Tyler and copy Jordan on it, you know, send the email and get that dialogue going. I would ask though that you copy your liaison and the city manager on all correspondence with staff, just so that everybody's in the loop on what's going on there.
I do agree with the concept that all the commissions and committees shouldn't have complete access to every person in the city, because 6 people could be asking the same question. But it would seem like there should be some provision for a project communications person to be able to make those things. So I know you're gonna be talking about that sometime in the future, but we did submit a budget that was flexible according to the number of people that applied, so it'll be just under $1,000 with the donations that we have. And that's if the maximum number of people apply for the contest. And if we get down to 7, it's not gonna be that expensive.
Well, City of Sandy is on city time, so last week, you'll get all kinds of people on, just sure.
And
The deadline.
anybody who's
approaches.
an artist knows, you never put in anything before the deadline.
Right. Well, we gotta move on our agenda here. Thank you for coming,
Yes, thank you very
and we'll keep the dialogue going. The one thing I'll say to everybody is, this is the second commission / committee in the last 2.5 months to come to us and say, we need your all's help with updating the rules and the bylaws and everything else. So we've gotta get on that as a council, so, thank you. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very impressed.
Good job.
Okay, tonight, US 26 Vista Loop.
We love you, Mike, we just don't love this project.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either. I met with ODOT last Tuesday, trying to finalize what the engineering costs are gonna be and kind of look at the budget again, and so I think it's in the staff report.
Yep.
So this is kind of where we are. We need another ODOT is asking for another $410,000 to complete the design. And this is, the last time we met with them, we had not selected a consultant for design yet. Since then, they have, but before they sign a contract with the consultant, going to pin down the budget. So the consultant believes it's going to take $536,000 to do the design, which is a reasonable number. It's still pretty high for what was originally envisioned to be a $2.3 million project. That's a pretty big chunk for just design. And then, so the consultant scaled back their scope of work to get closer to the estimated figure, which is $500,000. But then, to make up the difference, there's still a lot of work that has to be done with this project. Public involvement, geotech, hazmat, the list goes on. Cultural resources, dinosaur bones, whatever. So, and this is just the way, I explained this last time. ODOT treats a $70 million project the same as they treat a $2 million project. It has to go through all these hoops. There's federal money involved. It's a very complicated process. So, ODOT, in order to reduce the consulting cost, has said, well, we'll do some of this with our own staff, but that doesn't mean we'll do it free. It means we'll, based on the premise that the ODOT staff is less expensive than the consultant staff, which may be the case on an hourly basis, but not necessarily on an efficiency basis. So there's still some ODOT funds involved in this. So the bottom line is, right now, the project is $410,000 short before they could go ahead with sign a design consultant contract for design, and commit ODOT resources to this. That would leave about $1 million. Oh, and then the way ODOT would like to accomplish this is, I basically told them, we've already the city's already committed about $600,000 to this on top of our match. And so I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm for throwing more city money after this. So their solution was take money from the construction budget, which hasn't started yet, and slide it over to the engineering budget, which is great. You get your engineering done, but you have even that much less available for construction. So that's what they've proposed, and I said I'd go back to the, we're very close to the point where the decision needs either to proceed or to pull the plug. If we decided to pull the plug, we'd be out about $111,000, because that's what ODOT has spent so far on surveying and, project management. And if we proceeded, they wouldn't they wouldn't sign a contract with the consultant unless, we move this $410,000 from construction to engineering. And so since then, they've also come, and so the solution originally was, well, gee, you can go back in a future step and, submit this project saying it's already designed, we just need construction funding. Well, now, I've been told that this is what's called an enhancement project, so it's not a pot of money that's used for highway construction, it's a pot of money that's used for, visitor centers, rest areas, welcome to signs, sidewalks, things like this that are not just straight roadway projects. Well, the future steps do not include funds for these enhancement projects anymore, so, ODOT only wants to fund road projects out of gas tax dollars, they don't want to fund non-roadway projects. So there wouldn't be any money in the future step for this process.
That was a recommendation at the end of the staff outline was,
to do that.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And
what I
he-
just read here.
And then, after the agenda went out, I was called by Paul
Oh.
Scarlett, who was here at our meeting in February, who said, no, there won't,
do it that way.
you shouldn't count on step money. This enhancement program's gonna go away. And you can't let it, so then the other option was to get the design done, and the design is usable for up to 10 years, and so we could go, in a future step or find some future money and do it, but they said, don't count on any, non-highway related money being available in future steps.
How much money are we short?
410,000. But again, it's not any city contribution, we'd just be taking money out of the construction bucket and putting it in.
But we would have to,
design
we have to
bucket.
backfill that. in
And
the
we'd
art.
have less, and then, the other, way that's looking is don't count on any extra money for construction, either you have to come up with that, or,
So we would have to,
That's where I'm
you,
going.
we're only
And
build
that number's probably gonna
1,100
that's right, it's
That's
just.
my
feet
question.
of sidewalk instead of 2,700 feet of sidewalk. So between like where the sidewalk ends at Sandy Vista Apartments and Langenstein, that's about 1,700 feet. And between Langenstein and where the sidewalk ends by the police department, that's about 1,000 feet. So about 2,700 feet of sidewalk.
Basically, you could get from the police station to Lancaster.
Well, who knows? I mean, I think maybe we do the middle, because, some of those
That's the hard
parcels that are adjacent to the highway, they're on the edge of the bluff. They don't have a lot of development potential, because
Yeah.
ODOT's not gonna give people driveways onto the highway anymore. So there's a couple parcels that have development potential. There's no sewer access along most of the north side of the highway anyway. So the parcels that do have development potential in the future, we can maybe leave those out and just build it in the most difficult spot where there's very little room between the edge of the pavement and the bluff and the houses.
I see what you
Lori?
So in your professional opinion, have you dealt with projects like this?
Well, I've never dealt with a
Previously.
project quite
Quite
like
like this,
this.
I can appreciate that, I can appreciate that. Is this gonna be something that every time we get revisited, so when it goes to construction, when it goes to all of
Yes.
this, the price tag's just gonna continue to increase?
I'm sure once the design is done, we'll have a very expensive construction project.
This is ODOT.
And we did tell them, this is a council priority. This is really truly one of those places where you see somebody with a baby stroller
Right,
or a grocery cart walking along the side of the highway.
with chance.
And, it is it's only 40 miles an hour in most of this section, but everybody goes
70.
50 or 60, I know that. So, it's a necessary, it's an important project. So the question is, do we, bird in the hand, with what we have, use what money we have from ODOT to get as much done as we can, recognizing the limitations of ODOT project delivery process.
Carl and Jeremy,
So
frustrated A, frustrated more.
yes, this really just grinds in my stomach. I am trying hard to become calm in this whole thing. And, so maybe if I stand up and walk around a little bit, it's just because I'm trying to release energy here. But so trying to work my way through that is it what you're talking about? Maybe building the pieces of it that really have low or almost no possibility of development that would pay for that, be the part that we work on it. And do you think we would be able to get anywhere close to funding those chunks? I'm thinking maybe 50%,
Well, the
40%,
original,
whatever that might be, that are in that category.
construction estimate was 2.3 million, went up to 2.7 million. Now it's 3.6 million.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just grows and grows and grows.
2.1 to 3 point what?
2.6.
1.5?
2.3 was the original, no, I'm saying that the original construction estimate in 2012 was 2.3 million, which is, you know, $1,000 a foot. We're pretty sure we can get exact for that. But now they're saying that the construction shortage is about 3.6 million.
Just the construction.
I'm sorry, the construction cost is 3.6 million, of which we have $1.5 million to use for construction.
Oh, my word. Okay.
There's an idea swirling
Yeah.
around too.
There is, yeah, sorry.
Okay, I was telling Stan earlier, just so frustrated, because I was on C4 that pushed this forward. It's been a goal since before I was on council. You know, so excited we got this. They have the whole transportation issue with the federal government, shut things down for a while, comes back. Now it's 1.6, did I do my math right? More than, they want
2.3 to 3.6, so it's 1.3.
$1.3 million more than what we'd have to,
For a stinking.
and we already had a contribution out of that. I look at the piece of road and go and ask the question, could we not have a different project than a sidewalk going down there to help with the pedestrians? Like a pedestrian tunnel could be a lot less money, or to get to the other side where we wouldn't have all these other issues, because we look at what the issues are gonna be on that north side.
Yeah.
And those houses getting in and out, we already talked about it, that's gonna be a political,
It will always be an expensive place.
always be an expensive place. And what can we do to get across the highway instead of trying to go down it, where we already have a sidewalk half built? We're putting in more stuff. We have a park down there that we can take it off that slope and down farther. I mean, we have options, right? But even if we just cut bait, I mean, I'm like the last one wanting to say this, because we fell so much, and take that money and go use it for 362nd.
Yeah.
Well, there wouldn't be any money available. We said.
No, the 1.3 million that they're asking for us to,
That would be gone. We
Our-
couldn't
our
transfer
portion
that
of the money.
to something else.
but isn't that the money we're coming out of our street fund? Because we're constantly coming back asking for another 400,000 out of our street fund, the cities.
Right,
right?
we wouldn't have to spend that if the project did not go forward. The only thing,
Exactly.
the only thing the city would be out would be $111,000 to spend the vote.
Oh, right, but they're asking us to spend another 400,000 that would have to come out of our street fund.
No, this
Oh.
would be transferred from the construction budget
In the long run, it
of
would
the
be.
skip fund
Yeah.
to the.
If you wanna do the
Yeah.
project in its entirety, the cost is $3.6 million.
Today.
We're moving the 400, or would be moving the
Right, yeah.
400
It's
to an
gonna be-
earlier phase, so if you wanna do the whole project, still costs 3.6, you just spent 400,000 more earlier on, and now
On engineering.
you may run out of.
But they're saying it's on the city's shoulders to pick up the extra 400,000.
Or potentially
Eventually,
not,
because
The
certainly
construction.
or reduce the
the
project
money we
size.
take out of construction will certainly not be available. We won't be able to construct it for that. We can't even.
Would we be
Without
limited to
removing-
go to the county and ask the county to give us some funds?
I don't see a lot of hope for this other than
Be-
the city doing this with what little money we have from ODOT.
I kind of disagree with
Yeah,
that, actually.
I think, I think we get the plan, we move forward to get the plans, to
Yeah.
get the design. And then I think we cut bait and go after capital construction funds out of next year for this project if we want to fund it.
Well, and I'm thinking you could mix something like that
Or transportation.
with that property. That property there is about to be a
Yes.
Clackamas County Medical Services building.
Right.
They're talking about property across the street from there for their own workforce housing. There's connectivity between that and the Vista Loop
Yeah,
apartments
so
and all
maybe
that.
we're
That's
just
what we're
a
doing
little,
here.
I know a lot of energy and work has gone into this.
Yeah.
I get it, but yeah, I think maybe we're premature and maybe we can get this funded in
Another way.
other ways.
So what would it be looking at if we were to just take the transfer out, which is being recommended, out of construction and into design? So take us through that process one more time.
Then the project we'd have a set of plans,
Yeah.
solicit bids for construction.
Yeah.
We would have 400,000 less in construction which may not be a big deal because by the time the plans are done, you know, this thing will jump up in price again and
Right.
yeah, it'd be great.
And how much is it our money going towards the designs versus ODOT's funds going towards it?
Well, we've committed, the original cost was, there's 1.92 million in ODOT money, 378,000 in city match.
Yeah.
Now the city match is 828,000.
And the other thing is too, is,
Based on what was approved in September of 2017.
And that hasn't
Counting by
been
the
spent
book.
yet.
no,
Has not been
And
spent.
if we cut bait, we get that money back into our street fund?
Well, it's never gone to ODOT, we just have.
We've always
We
kept
just
it
haven't
there.
allocated
it's just been
it.
sitting there.
Allocated.
The other thing
Committed
is
to
too,
that.
is maybe
Yes,
by
committed to
doing
that.
this a little different way, the 10-year project turns into, maybe we can get it done in a couple years,
Yeah.
you know, instead of 10 years down the road, so.
So we're just brainstorming, what are thoughts on what Lori and I are brainstorming? Yeah.
Will ODOT allow someone else to build along that? Like what you guys are proposing is get the engineering done and then hire someone else to do it.
Right, or it can go allocate for
Use
funds
other
from the
funds.
state.
No, we
to-
still have to use, we still have to follow all federal highway administration guidelines. This is federal money, so that's where the real overhead comes in.
So you still have all that red tape and all that stuff. You'd have to follow all of their requirements.
Well, you know, we'd still have like $1.1 million available for construction, assuming everything worked out perfectly.
I think we.
Or we could just walk away from that and say, we got a design out of this, find some other way to fund it, but since it's still in ODOT's right of way, they're gonna really call the tune about what goes in there.
Yeah, Carl?
So, as I get it, then, if we did the process what Lori and Stan are talking about, it, we'd be somewhere in the order of, today's money, about $500,000 short of the construction part. And my guess is that it will be increasing, like everybody's saying, that by the time you wait another 6 more months, it'll be another $500,000. I guess the question is if we go forward in that particular format, is how in the world are we gonna stay ahead of the inflation that ODOT keeps seeming to put on this project? And if there's a way, is there a way to be able to say to them, we want this engineering process done in a short period of time? We don't want it to go 2 or 3 years. We want it done this year coming up, so that we do go to the county, we do go to the state, we do go, whatever it is that the other monies come out, we don't end up having to wait 3 more years before we end up with an engineering plan that's valid, that we can go
Well,
forward on.
their original schedule when they spoke with us in February was to get this designed by the spring. Then it has to go through the ODOT contracting process, and the contract would be let in October of 2020.
So, is that, I guess that's the other piece of it is can it go through, but not including the actual dollars, but go through the, whatever proposal process they have to have? So it's just sitting there, waiting for an RFP to happen, to get requests for bids out, and then that one way we can start forward with our other strategy. Sounds like we wanna go to the engineering level of not just the plans, but also the process of getting ready to do it, so we can just do this if we get the money.
Well, the city's on the hook for $828,000 to get this to design, to complete the design.
How much is ODOT putting into it?
It would be $1 million,
We're rapidly catching up.
it would be $1 million, ODOT's total contribution would be $1.9 million, construction and engineering. ODOT's for just the engineering part of it, ODOT's contribution would be $536,000.
And ours would be 800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was supposed to be originally be our contribution for design and construction.
Right.
And now it's, you know, all
Just
being
design.
This is why
funded up
I'm
to
just,
design now.
The numbers
wanna
are
work with
very
our
similar.
Yeah.
Are we even sure this is the right design anymore? We're talking about other things that are
There you
going
go.
on.
Yep.
Is that
You know,
too?
you can buy pre-built things that cross the freeway that can just be put in
Put a
place.
human bridge, pedestrian bridge.
Just
over the
remember,
top.
we invited ODOT to a meeting and talked about this project in particular, so I think we gave a pretty good signal that we were still in support, wanting an update on where this project was, so I think
Before
we
they
just.
started
But that
increasing the dollars.
Before, yeah.
But the dollars have been increasing anytime we've talked about it, they're gonna keep increasing as well too.
Yeah, I mean, any other solution other than the sidewalk is still gonna be very expensive, an overpass, an underpass. You know,
Sure.
those are very complicated and expensive because they have to be ADA accessible, so you have huge ramps associated with an overpass
Yeah.
and with an underpass. It use up a lot of horizontal distance to accomplish the vertical distance, you know.
It's gotta be an underpass if you're gonna do it.
Yeah, but underpass has the dip in the road.
So,
And you have drainage problems, and people don't like underpasses because they're dark.
so we gotta start to wrap up, but I'm gonna go to Carl and then Jeremy on this.
I'm done for the moment, I gotta
Well,
calm down.
knowing some of the different goals and priorities kind of our, newer council have on our docket, and that we're talking about, Bell Street 362nd being one of them. Yet showing respect towards both of your length and time and previous council's work on this project and the level of frustration as to where we are today on it. I mean, where are you? Are you guys wanting to try to scramble, kind of, Lori and I are kind of trying to scramble with brainstorm to save it, or are we feeling like we're at a point where we need to, clean the slate and walk away? I guess I'll start with Jeremy. See.
I appreciate you trying to save something we worked really hard for. It's
Yeah.
been on there, but I just don't see it. I just don't. I think our money would be somewhat better well spent, because I keep doing the numbers, and yes, they're putting in money, and it's money that there, but there's this portion the city has to contribute to this that we've committed to, right? We haven't paid, but we're at the end of the day when the project is done, we've committed this big number, and this big number keeps growing, and we haven't done anything. Maybe they've done some stuff on the back end, and then the time frame gets expanded out so much farther and farther and farther. I think the south side of the highway is gonna be developed before, and is there a different solution that wouldn't have such huge engineering and all this? I think that some of that money that we're attributing to it could be spent in some other areas of projects that we have in needs of this town. And I will take no offense, and I don't think any counselor before us would take any offense, because we were just rightfully in that same thing as Mike Wilkin say, was like, this is the last time, no more raising this price, because it just, every time they came back to us, it's like, see, it's like baiting you with something just a little bit more. And that's how I feel. So,
I live very close to the edge of this property, right there on Langenstein, and every time I go up there, I'm not trying to blow my horn or anything, but I have decided to adopt that chunk of Langenstein around the corner from my house to around there. And every time I'm out there picking up garbage, I'm seeing Mama with a stroller and a little 5-year-old boy, and you can just imagine, he's making circles around that stroller. And you got these 50 and 60 mile an hour cars going by, and they're trying their best to move over, but sometimes when it's a Friday afternoon, Sunday night, just there isn't any room. And I suspect that Mama is probably trying to figure out, well, when's the best time to walk that, so we don't end up getting full lanes going by at the same time they're walking it. But boy, it just makes my stomach cringe when I think about what we would be doing differently if we had a 5-year-old kid killed on that road. I mean, this is what I'm thinking about the last, how long has it been, 15 years, 10 years anyway, that we watch these things happen, and the close calls, and the kids that are walking up and down, and it just really makes me concerned that we are talking about possibility of not doing this thing. Now, I would do whatever we could to make alternatives, go on the south side. It's so much easier on the south side. We've got pieces already built there. We got development that's gonna come down the road. Even the part that's not gonna be developed for quite a while, it's such a flat piece. It's half the price. If there's a way we can get across the road with some sort of signal, something alternative, I know we talked about this, I would be all for that, but I'm a little leery about going through the engineering part and then saying we're gonna go out and find it. I'm just, if that's
can I
what the
have
council
one
wants to do.
30-second thing?
Yeah.
That we didn't have a problem with this as much when I first started on council, and I think one of the reasons is because the bus went up there and picked people up and brought them through. So with our half-hour bus turnaround, you have opportunities. We stopped that when we made this the transit center here, and it couldn't fit with at that time. The turns, I think we could save a lot of money and get trip counts from people taking it by including back in that. Now, that would have to rework with Andy to do that, and if we're on a half-hour schedule, if they can do it and time it, and with that shopper shuttle, the red bus.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Blue too.
blue,
That's a great idea.
could really count that down. But if there's nothing there, what do they have the option to do? Walk. And it's gonna cost a lot less than 800, plus you can get more grants by all the, and maybe there's some other types of things in there. I'm sorry, that was more than 30 seconds, I promised 30
So
seconds.
general direction, walk away.
Walk away.
With the bus.
I wanna hear,
Over the bus.
I wanna hear the pink haired dude.
Get on the
There's
bus.
one of me and sexy you, so.
You don't wanna walk away?
I think there's a reason why we decided to do it. I think the recommendation to move forward with reallocation from construction funds doesn't sound like a bad idea. I mean, we have nothing lost at that point. I do live on that side of the highway as well too, so, but like I said, I'm one voice.
Well, it sounds like what would be lost is the potential of $800,000 that we would be spending to design that puppy out, right? And then if we're not successful in getting construction funds, we flush that money down the product.
Almost want to cry.
No, I'm with you.
I like it.
But the bus idea is a really good idea.
It's a great idea.
Good
Yeah,
job.
Andy's not here.
I think
Yeah.
we're gonna invite ODOT
Study session.
to come and
There
we've got
is.
our torches ready to go at ODOT and now we're backing off the
That's
project like we weren't serious about it in the first place. This seems kind of silly.
They weren't very serious if they haven't done anything in all this time.
Right, I kind of feel like they showed up knowing that they were.
Standard ODOT though.
Right, but they showed up to that meeting knowing that they were gonna say no to a bunch of requests that we had, and that was what they held up as like, look how good we are. And now they've come back at us and it can never happen, and the financing's way out of whack. That doesn't seem like a very good faith deal to me.
So can we look into the bus situation?
There's a
We have a
master-
transportation.
Yeah.
Work session.
When do they need to know by?
Oh, yeah.
Master plan.
They want to know by tomorrow. So the earliest I can get an answer was tomorrow, and they said that's when we.
Direction? Good, good, all right, work session.
Well,
That's what the terrible.
shoot, 800,000, almost.
All right, call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome. Carrie, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Schmitz?
Here.
Counselor Smallwood?
Here.
Counselor Hamblin?
Here.
Counselor Lee?
Here.
Counselor Exner?
Here.
Counselor Schultz?
Here.
Mayor Pulliam?
Here. All right, we'll do our quick agenda review. We'll start off by calling for any changes to the agenda. Then we'll go to public comment for any items facing the council. If you are here to speak on the budget adoption processes, we'll have our own public hearing for that. So please wait to speak at that time. I will then we'll go to our consent agenda, to the resolutions for our budget adoption for both the Urban Renewal Board as well as our city budgets. We'll go to a report from City Manager Jordan Wheeler. We'll do our roundtable here of our committee and council reports. And then we will adjourn to an executive session after our public meeting this evening. So with that, is there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I will go to public comment. If you have anything to say, Brittany or Phil, please approach the podium, say your name and address. All right, we're good. Moving on to the consent agenda. Open for discussion or go for a motion that we adopt.
Make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Peetzold, a second by Councilor Smallwood. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda carries. To our resolutions, do I adjourn this meeting now and open an urban renewal board meeting? All right, I will close our city council meeting, and I will convene a meeting of the urban renewal board here at 7:20 on June 3rd, 2019. You want to join us, Chief?
Don't make it July yet. You need a chair?
You gotta bring your own chair.
Whoa.
Not that one.
BYOC.
I don't care anywhere.
Just see the chair just totally come apart.
Yeah. Come on in.
All right, Tyler?
Yeah,
Hi.
hearing from me again.
Yes.
So you may recall just a few short weeks ago, we had our budget committee meetings for the Sandy Urban Renewal Agency. At that time, the city manager, presented a balanced budget in accordance with Oregon law. The committee, or rather the agency board, discussed the uses of those funds and ultimately had no changes from what was proposed. So this is just the next step, formally adopting the Sandy Urban Renewal Agency's biennium 1921 budget and making appropriations.
Sure.
Any questions that you may have?
Questions? And you were forgiving the $1 million deal we talked about?
Don't say that.
Okay. Seeing no questions, I'll go to public comment. Seeing no public comment, I'll return to any final statements on the budget resolution. Tyler? Doing good?
The only thing I would add is there was a conversation tonight about murals and other art improvements, and I believe that there's enough in the appropriations for the next biennium to be able to make those within, again, with legal counsel's advice on if that's an appropriate use of funds, but there would be enough under the agency's budget to do those.
Councilor Exton?
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a very small number unless we decide to go to the professional restorer, which is, we have a lot of energy in the city of Sandy. One of the things that I love about Sandy is that we have a lot of volunteers and they love to jump forward. And really those, especially Becky Hawley, she's a quality artist and knows those kinds of things pretty well. So I feel that it won't be very much money, but I think without that city lawyer discussion, I think it'd be a good thing to do.
All right, not seeing any more discussion, looking for, Councilor Lee.
I was just going to move to approve the resolution.
Great.
I would approve Resolution 201909, adopting the biennium 2019-21 budget and making appropriations.
Second.
Phil seconded.
Yeah.
Phil, you seconded.
You second it?
Yes, I'm seconding that.
We have a motion by Councilor Lee that we accept the budget resolution for Urban Renewal Board, a second by Chief Snyder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So now I will close our Urban Renewal Board meeting. Thank you. And I'll
Bring back your own chair.
reconvene our city council meeting. And with that, we'll go to item 11.2, Mr. Tyler.
Me again.
Yes.
I've got a couple different resolutions for this one, so it might be a little more lengthy. Same spiel as last time. Previously, the budget committee met and to discuss the proposed budget for the biennium 1921. City manager proposed a balanced budget. There were minor modifications that resulted from the conversation and discussion with the budget committee. The first change, and both of these changes can be seen in the attached document to your staff report. The first change was adding $4,000 of gazebo rental revenue into the Parks, Buildings, and Grounds department. That ultimately just got recorded as resources, and then $4,000 added to the contingency for that department. And the secondary piece from the budget committee, the direction for the budget committee was to find $370,000 of additional or outside revenue to assist in the hiring of a police officer on or after July 1st, 2019, and a lieutenant on or after July 1st of 2020. So you'll see that there's an additional 370 added to revenue for the police, and a corresponding $370,000 in personnel services for that department. I can pause if we want to have a conversation, or I can keep going.
Well, I mean, do we want to have a conversation at our previous work session? There was conversation by council on the recommendation of the budget committee to go ahead and bump up those hirings. Is that still the feeling of council this evening?
Yes.
So if we want to do that, I would need a motion. Yeah, David?
Just want to make sure before you do that officially, just have your public hearing as formal as that might be, just so anybody that would want to comment on that could do that.
After we have our discussion, then make sure we go to public.
Yeah, before you'd have a formal motion to make that
Okay.
change, I guess.
Looks like we're still in discussion.
Yeah, discussion point. The outside format for including this $370,000, is that something you want to talk about now, or is this something that would be in a later item? Because I think we need to move forward on that as quickly as possible, but.
My understanding from our work session conversation was that staff was going to put the formal resolution in front of us at our next work session for us to look at and approve.
So that's a different conversation, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm done.
Okay. All right, so I will open the hearing. And looking for public comment. No? Seeing no public comment, I'll move back to discussion. Is there any discussion? What people think? Do you guys want to adopt for the budget committee, or do you want to hire the lieutenant position earlier, like discussed 2 weeks ago? Councilor Small?
I would like to hire earlier. I'd like to fund that.
Yeah,
Councilor Exner?
I think the thought process about how to do that is a relatively risk-free process, and I think I would like to do that earlier. Move forward.
Okay, from conversations, it looked like Chief is ready to, Bree Roberts is ready to kind of make that hire and stuff, so it's not like we'd be waiting on to have to do it. Yes, Councilor.
I would be for it only after we've settled on funds coming in.
Sure.
So we would have to have that discussion next before we actually had sent out an offer to anything.
I guess I don't understand, because whether we adopt the budget from budget committee, that's gonna have a gap of 375, right? Or we adopt the budget, an amended budget of a gap of 400 and something. Either way, we're gonna have to replace those. So I guess the general discussion just would be the timeline in which we hire those positions, right?
Right. So
I guess I don't understand the recommendation.
To not hire until we have a funding mechanism that's in place.
Oh, you just, in the next like 2 weeks, you don't wanna hurry out and go and hire that?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Because it's
I
supposed
just
to be
didn't
after
understand.
July 1,
Okay.
but we haven't made that decision
Yeah.
till July 15th.
Right.
I would want to have a funding mechanism before actually going and hiring anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would,
Yeah.
wait until we have a revenue source adopted and approved, and then 30-day waiting period with the ordinance. So looking forward, it's probably not until August at the earliest that we would
Just
for
wanted to-
sure have
yeah,
that
good.
revenue source established.
Counselor?
Just remind me, if we haven't already discussed it, is this additional resource appealable from the city by any means?
It's
Would be-
subject to referendum, so it could be, people could go and basically gather signatures to put it to a vote.
And how soon would that be
Well, they'd have to,
timed out?
they basically have to get sufficient signatures, roughly speaking, within 30 days of the date you adopt the
Okay.
ordinance.
All right. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Well, you were the one that gave the
Oh, I
motion.
did get a motion, sorry. I'm just, I'm just moving forward.
I'll second if you want.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, so I have
With
a
the proviso, by the
motion
way.
from Counselor Smallwood and a second from Counselor Exner to amend the budget resolution to hire the lieutenant position.
The motion is probably gonna be a dollar amount to amend the approved budget by whatever the delta is between the 370 and the amount that we would.
Would be
fully fund
another,
positions.
150,000, to bring on that lieutenant. That's for a full year, so effective July 1st. I mean, I can do some quick math to shave 3 months off of that and
So we're,
maybe October 1st. It's gonna depend on.
So maybe we withdraw the motion and restate it with the dollar amount?
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind it is a budget, so we increase, what the council would be doing is amending the budget committee's budget by $150,000 of additional revenue in the police department's budget. Now, if we, charge that full amount, depending on when we implement, when it hits the bills and all that.
So let's withdraw it and just
Yeah.
restate
So I think
exactly what
150.
Jordan
Yeah.
just said,
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
just amending the budget committee's recommendation by 100, and I'll make a motion to amend the budget committee's recommendation by 150,000 allocated to the police.
have a motion?
Go for it.
Okay, I'll second.
Second, thank you, I got a motion from Counselor Hamlin, a second by Counselor Exner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Or opposed, motion carries. What's next?
Okay, so part 2, it's required annually that the city certify that we provide 4 more municipal services. There's a couple pieces of Oregon budget law that are maybe a little bit outdated, but still required, and this would be one of them. So there's a long listing of municipal services that are possible to be offered. We offer the vast majority of them, and so Resolution 2019-06 would be essentially certifying that we offer at least 4 of these services, which we do.
Okay.
And part of this is contingent upon receiving some of those state shared revenues. So we have to offer these municipal services to receive revenue into our general fund.
Are we still in public hearing format?
Yes, I would take.
Public comment?
Yeah.
All right, we're open for public comment. Seeing none, we're to discussion. And motions. And questions.
I move that we approve Resolution 2019-06, resolution authorizing 4 or more principal municipal services are provided.
I'll second.
By motion by Counselor Exner, a second by Counselor Schultz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
So Resolution 2019-17 is a resolution electing to receive state shared revenues. So now that you've certified that you offer these municipal services, now we're gonna essentially say, yes, we do want this funding. And those state shared revenues include liquor tax, cigarette tax, the money that gets passed through the state of Oregon down to the city.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-07, resolution electing to receive state shared revenues.
Hold on, do I need to open for public comment?
At this point, I would, just to make it abundantly clear for the record.
Okay.
Make a motion that we open for public comment. Actually, I'll let my motion stand.
You can just, exactly, you can just take public comment.
And take public comment. Angie, is there anything you'd like to say this evening?
No.
All right, seeing no public comment, we'll go back to the standing motion from Counselor Hamlin.
I'll
Do I have a
second the taking of money from the state.
I too am in favor.
Receiving of money.
Oh, I'm sorry. Receiving of money from the state.
It's the Robin Hood method. We got a motion from Counselor Hamlin, a second by Counselor Peetzold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then lastly, I think we have just a formality of Resolution 2019-08 as amended by your previous motion.
To adopt the budget.
To adopt the budget, make appropriations, and levy taxes.
Okay. Any questions for Tyler?
Okay.
Looking for public comment? Back to the council for discussion or motions?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-08, resolution adopting the biennium 1921 budget, making appropriations and levying taxes, and including our previous amendment.
And second?
We have a motion by Counselor Hamlin to adopt the amended budget, a second by Counselor Lee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, council. We've passed our budgets. Tyler, I believe you said it's whiskey of choice.
Whatever.
I just wanted to thank city staff for all their work on budget. I know we probably felt like we went back to the drawing board a couple times, and you guys did a great job putting all that together. If you can share that with other city staff, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, city manager report, Mr. Wheeler.
Great. First bit of news is the pool is officially closed. Tanya Richardson had a closure party, I guess a goodbye party, to her staff that have helped operate and staff and supervise the pool over the last several months. On that theme, one thing I did want to bring up with the council is we have been approached by various groups, sort of anticipated, sort of not, but from different community groups about using the pool for their own purposes, either for practice and swim meets or clubs. And my initial response was, we're happy to have a dialogue and conversation about that and what it would take, but I would of course need to check in with the city council. And as city manager, my thought would be, any proposal would have to be at least revenue neutral, and that is, not regarding any of sort of the other issues about a closed pool being used by individual groups or parties. So we did run some numbers, and we just talked about budget, but we spent a lot of time during the budget talking about the pool, leading up to the budget, talking about the pool and what it would cost just to keep it heated to the utilities to a level where it could be used in the future. We ran those numbers. That's what is in the budget that you just adopted, is that there would be water in the pool and enough heat in the building so that we can possibly use it in the future. So the difference came out to be something like $5,000 a month, having a fully operational and heated pool for swim meets and things like that, versus what the temperature we're going to have it at. And that's also things that are in that number would be additional utility expenses to run that boiler and all that to heat it, and the lights and etc. And that doesn't account for any of like the breaks or repairs and other maintenance and things like that. So my guess is, we share that number, and groups will probably say thanks but no thanks, and go to their option B. But I did want to sort of touch base with the council about that, because you may be, being contacted by these groups as well.
Yeah.
So we did run those numbers, and my thoughts are, at this point, the pool is closed. We thank staff. It's we're turning down the heat, turning off the lights, and that's been our direction from the council. And this was just a minimal amount of time it took just to run some numbers and be able to have a conversation with these groups out of courtesy and exploring it. But my recommendation would be to declare it closed, and continue to press forward on a plan for the future of the community campus and the pool.
Couple questions. So I noticed on Tanya's last staff report, she'd mentioned that the chlorine mixing into the water, that we were having to do it by hand, that she had then turned around and I think got a loaner for like 6 months that could come in and do that. So is there there's probably, my guess is probably a difference in the quality of the chemicals we're putting in, or really making sure is good to go for human use versus just keeping the pool running and alive. So knowing that we only got a loaner for 6 months, is it items like that we would have to continue to go out and pay more to repair than otherwise of it just sitting there?
And paying actually somebody to come in and hand feed the chemicals too, so that's another part of the
But they're having to
process.
do that now though.
Right.
Right.
And we can, but even more, and then the expenses of additional chemicals. So,
and then what about the startup and shut down? So $5,000 a month, $5,000 times 12 is a lot of money. But-
60,000.
Right, but $5,000 times 4 is not as much money if we're talking like a local club or group or something to raise some money to then go in and have their like swim team meets and stuff. So are there like startup and shutdown costs that fluctuate that 5,000?
I don't know if we got into that.
We didn't get that far into the detail. The level of detail that Tanya and I went through was the lack of feasibility in, I need it for 2 hours on Monday, but it takes a week for the pool to get up to the temperature once we lower it, to get back up to, 80 degrees or whatever it is. And then a week to cool back down, and then a week to go back up. So it doesn't make financial sense to heat and cool, kind of as an all or nothing sort of scenario.
Well, I would agree with that if in a birthday party type model. But I think there's a difference, isn't there, between a model where we're renting it out to any individual group versus like a long-term rental lease agreement with a club sport organization that's looking to rent the pool for 3 months out of the year. Then we would, ongoing for practices and everything else, it'd be a one-time heat the pool and keep it going, and then they'd be able to come in and use it or not use it.
I mean, it's also the cost of just keeping it heated at that level, though. So, yeah, there might be more initial if, we start to cool it down now to ramp it back up. But, we're talking about groups that would use it for an hour or two a day. And so then you have the pool sitting there for, the other 22 hours.
But that's their choice.
If
Right?
they're willing to
if
pay
they're
the
willing to pay
$5,000.
$5,000 a month, that's their choice to pay the $5,000 and it just sit there.
I think it's totally a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because if we've got it heated and it's usable,
Uh-huh.
why aren't we using it? And then I also have concerns about liability as well too.
Uh-huh.
If we've got other parties in there, and we're not actually the overseer of the facility at that point. So like unless we're providing supervision or lifeguards during practices, I have worries about liabilities. I can see if they get 3 groups together, $5,000 a month isn't gonna be that much.
Because there was other things that was costing us money, right? Like, the staffing and the
That's the biggest
hours.
cost.
Yeah,
Well, and then the
all
whole
that
thing
was the
about
biggest
something
cost.
catastrophic happening at any minute, like breakage.
Right.
Oh, sure, right.
And then they're out, and then we're out
Right.
even more too, because you're gonna have to do a whole closing again. And that wasn't free to close the pool.
The one other piece that's not included in that $5,000 is any additional amount of Tanya's salary. So in the budget, it's a very, very limited, I think it's only 5%, and that's just to supervise the one employee that's feeding those chemicals. But depending on the burden that managing contracts and checking in on these teams of, did they clean up after themselves, did they not? What's the current status? Anything like that, could increase our staff time, so it's just another piece to think about.
Was janitorial services included? You mentioned clean up after themselves.
I mean, that's the other thing is the time to draft up an agreement, just a use agreement with liabilities and, in the event that something does break, what happens, who's responsible, and all that kind of stuff. So.
What if Mavericks comes back, or whatever they turned into, and says we wanna lease it, and we wanna do swim lessons, and operate and pay all the expenses for it? I mean, we heard a lot of people say, I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of money out there, and funding, and we could make this happen. So I mean, I think it may be an opportunity for them to show that they're serious about that, and can afford the entire cost to operate and run and maintain the pool.
Counselor Exner?
Is there a point at which, let's say the Mavericks or the Blue Dolphins or whatever group comes in, that we could say, yeah, that sounds like it would be economical to the city, that we would say for a period of whatever that period is, that makes sense as long as they provide all those pieces and parts that we're talking about, of maintenance and janitorial and insurance, supervision, all that sort of stuff that we would normally provide, but they would have to be required. So would there be a period that would make sense for us?
Yeah, I mean, again, if they're willing to pay, you
Yeah.
know, and, you know, we can work out an agreement. It's been done before with the school district, you know, having the Mavericks operate it. And even I think the YMCA at some point in the history of the pool. There's been other groups that have done this. You know, the question would be, is the council still comfortable contributing some funds, right? Because we're already funding it up to 68 degrees. And so then these groups would pay the delta of that plus, you know, whatever else in terms of utilities and chemicals and things like that. So,
Well, then it becomes their decision,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I guess that's my thing is we have a pool that is sitting there. And our big reasons that we had to shut it down was not because this council's anti-swimming
Oh, yeah, boy.
or sports
Don't say
or pool. We're anti-budget constraint. We have budget constraints, right? And so I guess where my issue with this comes open is that it's a totally different business model if you have a closed down pool where you are pushing forward cost recovery onto the folks that want to rent it. And there may be no marketplace for this, right? We may say, yeah, sure, do it. And the school or some of these club sports may say, yeah, well, that's too expensive for our blood, and that's fine. But I sure as heck would hate to not offer that in a closed type deal with full cost recovery. And say, hey, you know, this is the cost. If you guys want to go raise some money, or if you're willing to pay it, or go raise the money.
So I think in some of that full cost recovery and comments with what John said, the liability and stuff, and
Yeah.
that would include then, you know, paying staff time as well on top of it. It's just
Sure.
not heating the pool. There's maybe it's not the full amount, but there's,
116 or whatever it costs a year, it's the full operational cost, as if they owned this pool and they needed to operate and maintain it.
Yeah.
so there's,
Not just the extra to heat it from 68 to, sorry, I'm cutting it.
yeah, no, there's that piece, but also the staff, if we're going to, you know, do this, is our liability and stuff is having, you know, lifeguard, you know, those type of things that are part of that.
Yeah, but that's not always part of it, though, right? That was part of it under some of our arrangements, but I don't think when the school was there with their swimming practices and water polo practices, my understanding is that Tanya was not having lifeguards and stuff there for that.
I understand that they did because they complained about having 2
3
lifeguards.
years.
Well, I thought it was one of the clubs, like one of the under the
Water
high
polo
school.
clubs.
I don't know. I could have been mixed in translation.
I guess it's also a
Yeah.
part of our insurance.
Yeah.
What our insurance requires
Right.
too, because we are still the owners of that building.
That'd be a full waiver.
You guys tired of talking about the pool yet?
I guess I just don't. I'm sorry. I guess I just don't see what's in it for the what's not in it for the community.
It looked to me like everybody was in agreement.
Yeah.
If they can
Or
fund
they can
over
make
and
it-
above what we're currently paying to keep it at whatever degree it is right
Yeah.
now, including all costs assimilated, it looked to me
Yeah.
like everybody was open to that idea.
I
Looking at the
suspect
head
that would
nods.
be a council decision anyway, right? I mean, it's like.
So
you
on
guys have
top of
evaluated
that,
it?
does that also mean you're okay if a swim lesson group comes in and wants to take over swim lesson operations at the pool?
Full cost recovery. And until, you know, we've made a decision as to the final direction of the pool and all that, if you want to come in and rent it and you're not going to cost the city any, we're not going to make money, but if you're going to pay for the total cost recovery of that and we can liability get away with it, why, I don't know why we wouldn't.
Yeah, and we might find out that this is something that would be longer term too, if that was, they had figured out a model or some figured out some sort of funding that they could make this one solved. We might look forward to that.
Councilor Lee?
I'm just wondering if we can do away with all of the liability, because if something happened that was operational and it was our equipment, aren't we still liable?
I think, you know, you can always have, well, I think drafting the right agreement with a group that wanted to use it, and that group was fully aware of what they were agreeing to, right? Whenever it comes to sort of, you know, waiving one's rights, you know, releasing a party from any liability, the ability to do that, even with the public, is fairly broad, but that's why when you see some of these contracts and they just almost look like billboards, and you're just sort of saying, how many times have you told me the reason is because where these things get tricky is if somebody could argue later, I didn't really fully appreciate that. It wasn't abundantly clear. So I think you could, but it would be something where, it's not going to be, just a simple application. It would be something a little bit more intimidating to the group in terms of an agreement that would really lay out, you realize by doing this, even if there's maybe arguably negligence on the city's part, an element of the pool that wasn't taken or maintained well enough that breaks and causes somebody else injury, that, that's on you. Yeah, I think you could do that. It's just you want to make sure that it's, really written well. I think the insurance piece is huge. Not only, having I think most likely CIS would say, they'd review your insurance to make sure that, it's sufficient, which it probably is, but also say, someone that's going to be coming in and doing that needs to have their own insurance policy as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, I have another comment. So I know that a couple of the groups have reached out to me, and I've forwarded one to Jordan. And from what I hear is this group wants 2 months, this group wants 6 months, this group wants 1 month. And so if you're getting into that, here's the dollar amount, you have to have enough groups, but what happens if one pulls out, then the rest don't have enough money? Do you see where we're kind of going with that piece of it? And so are we spending a lot of staff time to try to do that, or do, that gets into you're committing for the entire year or whatever?
They'd probably want to create a nonprofit and have it go through one entity and all of them come together, and we could recommend that they do that, and that they're on the hook for the dollar amount even if their partnerships dissolve.
Right.
So they write contracts with their groups.
Only trouble, it takes
Yeah.
about a year to have a nonprofit.
So it wouldn't be our issue of collecting the dollars
There, they've already got one together.
from the individuals if they backed out.
There is something to be said about communicating back to our community. You came before us, and at least the club organizations that came before us and said, we're interested if, give us the opportunity, is what we heard, to raise some money and stuff to be able to utilize the pool. Let's give them the opportunity. And this may all be for nothing, right? Probably is. It probably is too cost prohibitive, but.
Sure. There's a lot of energy out there for this pool from a certain part of the segment of the city. And I think, I got a meeting next Monday that's going to be talking about this very thing. So I would be very happy to say that the council would be willing to consider.
Who are you meeting with?
Friends of
Dottie?
the Sandy Pool.
Friends of Pool.
It would be a contracting challenge, but we can definitely explore it and communicate that back to the groups. But so far it's a couple seasons of sports for a couple hours a day plus an hour of lessons. So who pays for what in terms of temperature and chemicals between those? How do you deviate between those? And then plus the city's share. You can get creative, and maybe there's some sub leasing from another group to another.
You have so many hours in the day. Each group is going to use it a certain percentage of the day or
And
of
they
the
can't
week.
do open hours.
And then you
Unless
figure
also
out
do
that
media hours.
average allocation versus the amount it costs to run it, and then you allocate it and charge it back to the groups.
It's a lot of coordinating work. I hear what you're saying. I agree. I'm just a little cautious. I think you might have hit it. Maybe for not because of the cost allocation. I do, but just keeping some of those things in mind. Each group, if they're coming together, one group jumps out, there has to be something overarching that can that guides that.
They need a guarantor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess those are some directions that we could send out there because we did communicate that this is a budget thing. This isn't because of anything but our budget, and
So just a clarification piece, Jordan. Do you all want to do it for the cost beyond what we're paying and what we've allocated, or for the entire cost? of the pool. So pretending like we don't have a pool, we have $0 cost, and they're covering every single cost associated with the pool, or just the increased costs for operational versus dormant.
I see, increase.
Yeah, I think in fairness, because we are already paying X number of dollars to keep it set at what it is, I think it's over and above that until we make a final decision on the direction of the pool moving forward. That seems fair.
And I would say I agree with that, but I also think that we have a process that we're looking at going for. So they need to remember that in May, we're going to be going to a vote to the public and finding other the processes are all going to be incorporated in that, so they need to know we're moving down a road with other solutions. So it may be taken from them. Who knows?
I think we need to add in staff time as well too.
Oh, I think
Oh, yes.
any
Oh, yeah.
cost.
Kind of like a SRO, I
Yeah.
mean, just as an example.
And legal time.
I think any cost.
Yeah, so.
David, careful on those hours. 15-minute increments, please.
I was thinking half an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
What an invitation.
Jordan, aren't you sorry that you brought that up?
No, I appreciate the direction.
Do you want feedback? Carl, did you know Carl's meeting with Friends of Sandy Pool?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't know if you want feedback from me.
And honestly,
Folks are coming to us.
They weren't one of the groups.
Yeah.
We've received, public communication from them, but they're not one of the groups requesting to use it or rent it.
More of a conversation.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just a couple really quick administrative stuff. The LOC conference coming up this year. We were looking to confirm counselor attendance so that we could be ready to go when registration opens for that soon. So far, we have the mayor, Councilor Lee, Exner, and Schultz confirmed to go. So if you can let Carrie know if you're interested.
Yeah.
That'd be great if we can register on time. Last year, we couldn't get rooms, because they were all sold out the first day.
Counselor Lee's not bitter about that, or?
I want to go. It's a first.
We had to drive.
We could-
Man,
we could
okay.
It's the first week of the
Side
term
the
for me.
street.
So
So, did we get a hospitality room in Meston and all that? And is that? could we-
Carrie and I are working on getting that, but
Okay.
You have to wait till it kind of opens.
yeah, it just hasn't opened for,
But
to be reserved.
we're still on track for that.
Yeah.
The way they do it is you have to register before you can get a room.
Oh, really?
That's why registering by July 1st is important.
Let's, so everybody's given their feedback, if they're going or not?
I'm going to.
Okay.
She got it.
All right.
my feedback is tell them to move the date.
Yeah.
So it's the first week of the term, so
Yeah.
anybody that goes to a
Oh.
college or works at a college interferes.
Yeah, that's tough.
Maybe I'm the only one that's staying.
Who wants to be in a parade? If let us know.
You're the only one that.
I love the parade!
You get a bunch of sticks with faces on it, and he can carry them along.
Oh, like the old Tom Peterson?
Well,
Tom
transit
Peterson
will be in the
face.
parade, and I believe the
I love
library as
transit.
well. So if you want to ride in the trolley or something,
Ah.
we can arrange for
I
that.
have done the trolley before. It's
Otherwise,
awesome.
the mayor is.
I guess I'm the Lone Ranger, no one else gonna be out there?
What's the
I'm-
theme?
I'm in the
this year?
parade, but I'll be in my own office.
Dreams and something. That's the
I'll
thing.
go in the trolley.
Yeah, I know, right?
I like the
What
trolley.
date is
The
the
trolley's at
parade?
the end, I think you wait longer
Right.
and you're in the parade.
Trolley's always fun. The kids
July
love the trolley.
11th?
Front.
Yeah.
It's the
Steve
Thursday,
said,
right?
like number 3.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Don't want that last part.
I wanna be in the beginning.
I'll
you-
I'll be catching candy.
we do have a letter
Oh,
for
wait,
the
wait.
August Day
Yeah.
Parkway invitation for the councilors to sign after
Yeah.
the meeting. I think we have an executive session tonight, so we can do it in between or just pass it around. So we can send those out and have a good time.
Which roads will be closed for that?
Good question. We'll send out logistics, but I believe we're just staying in the Timberline Trails areas now, right? Yeah.
We are.
The scenic.
Oh, I thought it was going Timberline Trails all the way over to Deer Point. Is that not happening
I
anymore?
think it's because of the road closures.
Oh,
and
The Barcode?
same thing.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering if it was going to go down.
sidewalk on
You signed it up.
Yeah, she said it's
I was
like-
going to auction out my driveway to the highest
Yeah,
department.
right. You already did for Sandy Net, didn't you, once?
No.
Just signed it the same.
I thought you did, you told me you had all the wires over there or something.
Oh, I didn't auction
Oh,
it. I just donated it.
okay.
I know councilors have a slideshow for our awesome tours, so
Yeah,
I'll wait for that.
all right.
That's it for me.
Cool. So moving on to committee and counselor reports. I'll start with you, Counselor Schultz.
Mostly what I have to report on is the wastewater tours, so I'll wait for that portion of the meeting.
Counselor Exner, do you want to do the wastewater deal now?
No, I was actually going to do another thing. I have a really good, I see Mike is gone here, so I think it's Mike that should get the pat on the back. A lady contacted me about having brown water coming in through her front.
Oh, I heard.
All of our pipes, everything was brown water. Worried as can be, struggling with what was going on. She thought that because we were talking about the sewer plant, that the water had reversed. I convinced her that that wasn't happening. But our crews went out there that same morning, got the thing taken care of, cleaned them all out, and her comment was, she sent me a note, said that the city came out, flushed the outside system, helped me flush out the inside system. They were totally awesome, and so far, no brown water. Thanks for everything.
Good.
So,
Do you know what
good
the
job.
cause of the brown water was?
She didn't say, but hopefully it's not the sewer going backwards.
Rust.
Do you know what the problem was?
Oh, it could have been a break, maybe.
Yeah. But she told me she had brown water coming in several different.
Was this up in
faucets.
Cascadia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say who her name was, but just for private things. Other than the tour, that's it.
Counselor Lee.
Yes, I don't have anything. Now we have the C4 meeting coming up. Have more to say later.
There's no report.
Yeah, beyond the water treatment, I've got nothing either, so.
Well, I'm excited to hear about the water treatment, so I'll keep it short. I wasn't able to go to it, but just to follow up on last meeting's update, I asked about the charging SDC charges for outdoor seating for our restaurants. This is a great week to go outside to visit our restaurants and sit outside, and our community loves to sit outside. You know, whether it's just a parking lot that's got some seats sitting out there, and I'd love to see this fixed and resolved. Where have we gotten with this?
So I'm happy waiving, but I think what we're planning on doing is bringing back to I think as early as the 17th consideration of making that change.
I just don't want the summer to go away. I went into another one that was on the
I'm glad you brought
the
that up.
report that hasn't had this happen, and was quite a shame last night that it was a beautiful night.
Well, just to piggyback on your comments there, so I'm looking at the staff report, talks about the Orin Brewing location. Quick research shows that many nearby cities do not assess SDCs for this kind of improvement, including Gresham, Happy Valley, Canby, and Estacada. Let's get that sucker in front of council so that we can move forward on that ordinance immediately.
So, anyways, that's all I had.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, for me, just C4 retreats coming up next weekend. A big portion of that is going to be the strategic fund for the vehicle registration fee, which got passed by the county, and then there was no resolution to repeal it. So there will be no repeal effort for that, so that's going through. So a lot of council's plans from our goal setting of trying to find a funding plan using those fees, some state dollars that come from our gas taxes and stuff to be able to do some debt financing for that expansion. Looks to be a reality, so we'll be able to move forward on that. Budget process, congratulations to council and staff for passing tonight's budgets. I think that we all have a lot to be very proud of. That it's obviously, we talk about it a lot, how tight our purse strings are, but we did accomplish a lot of things. Our next meeting, we'll be talking about this public safety fee, but we're gonna get multiple officers, more officers on the streets for this community, with a stable funding source. That as our community grows, so does our department. So I feel like that's a huge accomplishment. We got some money in our rainy day reserves, contingency at 5%. We all agree we wanna see that grow, but we're moving in the right direction for that. And then the reallocation of some additional dollars from urban renewal going towards our tenant improvement program. Huge stuff for economic development and really helping kind of our downtown core be able to establish some new restaurants and breweries and different establishments for our residents. So thank you to everybody on that. I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with different counselors on the process. We're all very, my takeaways on that is that we're all very happy about how the process went, and so thank you for staff on that. With a slight change, I know there has been some frustration that we didn't really, we felt like in a lot of ways this budget was a base budget, right? I mean, it was a tight year. That said, we would in future years, and we'll need that to be reiterated in our private meetings and conversations, but there's been a lot of chatter about really moving forward with having a COLA increase with PERS, and then the rest of their budget really being reflective of what the last biennium was, so that we could really be able to allocate dollars and stuff. It's very important for this council in future years with these tight budget constraints that we're actually able to really prioritize spend the money in this budget. So very happy and proud of this first budget that our council passed. So for 6 months in, we've accomplished a lot. The projects, wastewater treatment, we're going to be talking about the facility tours we did, and we're really moving forward with that goal. Transportation, we're going to have some announcements in the months ahead, things we're getting out of both the legislature as well as ODOT with some of the agreements, so we're excited for that. I just want to let council know kind of as we move in here to the latter 6 months into this next year, some of the items that I think we're going to have to put up. One is our policies and our bylaws with our committee that we've discussed. We got to move that up. Got to continue down the path with wastewater. We need more focus on the community campus and really kind of getting that ahead and going. And into next year, we're going to be getting a report back from our planning department on options for a master plan for growth that we've talked about getting updated. The one additional item I'd add on that, not that we don't already have a full enough plate, is had a great meeting with our community services department this last week. I just want to start by saying the staff there is doing an awesome job. We've had a lot of changeover there, individuals that have been within our city staff for long periods of time. So there's been a lot of coming in, trying to see who's on first, who's on second, and how it all comes together and meet our current demand, while also trying to think about a quickly growing community. And I think that's a department, from my meetings with them, that need a lot of, they need some council guidance and some leadership there. As to really assessing a strategic plan for that department and how we want them communicating and growing, and so I'm going to look to try to get that on some future work sessions and stuff for us to do with that department. Okay. With that, yard signs was on Facebook today. We got these garage sales happening now at spring and summer, and different ordinances on that. I said I'd be asking about it today. I think there's probably a happy balance, right, between wanting to make sure we have our sign code, but also knowing that we're still a small community that has yard signs. And my guess is that we have some pretty simple ordinances around our signs, and that we don't have someone that just their full-time job is to drive around and assess fines for garage sale signs, or is that not the case? What has been the impression from community members here?
Well, I can tell you, we used to have where you come out and check out these wooden signs out here, and we'd go and put them up.
I remember that.
And then they kind of went away because it was kind of a hassle in getting them back and all that.
Yeah.
And so they went to $5 where you got the little metal thing, and it was kind of a normal sign. And I think that was kind of where it's left. I do have to say, though, as I run around the city, I've just this last week seen a lot of them just nailed to trees.
Yeah.
As I go to, there's one right by the post office, you know, and your junk, you know, well, you used a different word than junk. It can be my junk could be your junk type thing. But anyways, that was how they're advertising. But you know, it's just that the problem is as well as they don't come back and pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to. I mean, I think it just adds to kind of a messy environment around our community. So, but I don't want to go back to having to get wooden signs,
Right.
right? That seemed kind of the opposite side of things. But.
Signs have been, I don't know, there's always been a conversation about what we should do about signs, how we should control them, and what we should do, and we go back and forth. We used to have a committee, I think, that was taking care of all those, both for downtown and out into the residential.
Are you talking about just garage sign, cell
Yeah,
signs?
all I'm
Yeah.
talking is
Garage
garage
cell
Oh, you
sign,
are?
yeah,
Okay.
don't go into the other.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
thinking
I'm
about
talking-
unit
I'm just
signs.
talking-
Not the Ant Farm sign.
Yeah, I'm just talking simple garage
Oh,
sale
okay, all right.
sign.
We haven't talked about that for a
We
while.
just,
so-
we probably just ask city staff to take a look at the ordinance and make sure
Yes.
we're all
That's it.
good. And then if you see a problem, write city staff and let them deal with it. I mean, about the only thing we could do is require people to put an address on the signs, and then you have a place to find them when the thing's left up for a certain number of days.
We should make sure we don't put them on trees and telephone poles. I have them on them, there's a, I think it's a, is it a fiberglass pole that's in front of my place? I see them stapled to that occasionally, which is kind of weird.
Well, I don't want to belabor the point, but I would say it is funny that, to me, though, the community gets upset about code enforcement not coming in and enforcing certain codes, but then they get upset when they feel like certain codes are being enforced, so it's always kind of, it's kind of humorous to me.
Depends if it's in your backyard.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know, Councilor Smalley, you had a housing thing going on, so you weren't able to make the last Parks Committee meeting.
Right.
There was, I saw in the report, there's something about, there's a report about the dog park and all that, and so, do you mind catching us up next meeting on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
dog park deal?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I had on here to waive SDCs for patio, so I guess we're good there. That's the end of my report. I'm not gonna close, we're gonna go to the wastewater treatment facilities deal. Carl, do you wanna kind of take us through it?
I can do that. I don't want to be
Kind of
the,
pitch in.
I don't want to be the entire talker, but I certainly can
All
walk our
dressed
way
up
through that. And,
Yeah.
you know, Bethany was there all the time as well, so. We have some pictures. I didn't have pictures of everything, but I guess the first picture is the first day we made some tours of the current plant down on Tickle Creek, as well as the potential new one behind Tollgate there, the old city sheds, as well as doing the Sandy River, what's that called? Outflow potential spot. And, so I'm just going to make a couple of comments on the three locations, because we don't have any pictures, I don't believe. We may have some yeah, there we go. We have some pictures of the plant. Good group of people. Got some
Yeah.
folks in there from the city, as well as from the watershed. Both watersheds showed up, and then the three counselors, and Jordan and Mike. So, good list of people there. One of the big things I took away from the Tickle Creek plant was that we're not doing the primary kinds of treatment to the stuff that comes in. And by not doing that, the secondary treatment is taking all the load, and that's one of the problems why some of our smudge, or our sludge plants are not being able to do the work as they should be able to, and they're always working hard to make that up because we aren't getting that primary treatment, which gets rid of the big stuff and moves the rocks and the garbage. Unfortunately, we didn't get a picture of it, but I was seeing garbage, plastic, some sort of baggie was in the middle of our sludge tank, and I think that's not really very good at all for all the pumps and the things that go on there. I'll say something there.
Well, I think, you know, moving forward with the project as we start to develop, I think it would be in our best interest to definitely do some public training about things that go down your toilet and things that don't. And that wouldn't be a hard PSA, I don't think, to wrap people's head around, especially with, you know, people's concerns for the environment and things like that. So it's definitely something I think we want to.
do a funny viral video. on it.
Exactly, you know, I think it'd be,
John can start
pretty
it.
easy
Yeah.
and something that, you know, that would definitely, but it would benefit us and.
Most
benefit the
viral
community
videos
as well.
start better with someone with a pink mohawk doing it.
Right.
Talking about poop.
Absolutely.
I know when we toured it in the past, done it a couple times, they said one of the things that came out in there, I don't know if they shared this with you, was disposable diapers. People flush their disposable diapers down the toilets, which,
Oh, I know some people.
anyway.
Bethany?
Yeah, I think I was, especially, so we toured that and then went down to the river and then toured this, the West facility, and it was such a stark difference in the cleanliness
What facility is this we're looking at
This
here?
is the Tri-City one
Oh.
in Oregon City.
Well,
But it is-
I guess before we move to that, sorry, to interrupt, was
Uh-huh.
we're hitting an issue with anglers or something?
So that's been a big thing that I'm hearing is, so this outfall, potential outfall location is just right where everybody wants to fish. So I think we need to.
The mouth of the Cedar Creek,
Yeah,
which is the hatchery.
yeah.
Right there, yep.
So there's gonna be a massive amount of pushback if we're gonna continue on with that location once everybody catches wind of it, I think. So I don't know if we wanna look in, I know that, the guy from Murray Smith mentioned going further downstream maybe, or I know we own this part is why we're looking at it, but
Yeah, actually, we saw a couple fish get pulled out of the river.
Yeah,
when we were
right
down
there.
We did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We had a picture here
Very
earlier,
detailed.
but
Oh my God.
Jordan decided not to put it in there, that big fat fish. I think we should
Oh, yeah,
think about
Photoshop
larger
talent.
fish. One thing that I guess I will add to that, we haven't talked about the outfalls much, but that if we look at Roslyn Lake or other facility, and I'm going to be advocating here a little bit about some of the swamp water, the wetlands as a way to think about what we should be doing instead of just dumping it straight into Sandy River. I think that there are some good alternatives, really good alternatives,
right.
than just putting it straight into the Sandy River.
And the issue too is like the Sandy is still considered such a pristine river. You look at all our other rivers, this one is still so great. And there's a lot of issue with, doing this. And they obviously, like, if it's our only option, it's our only option, but we need to make sure that it's our only option.
And so just to kind of catch everybody up, in case you don't know, moving forward with like a Roslyn Lake idea, the thought process there, or the action that occurs is that the wetlands naturally clean the water. And so we wouldn't necessarily have to, well, we wouldn't at all have to dump into our beautiful pristine river, which is a lot of the reason that people move here. So it's definitely something to think about.
Couple thoughts on that. So the plan is to bring back to the council the wastewater system facilities plan this summer, I believe, and we're targeting August. And in that plan will be the preferred alternative to, move forward with the permitting process for putting the effluent into the Sandy River, building an outfall there. Even the ideas of Roslyn Lake, which I think are awesome, and we'll see photos of a natural treatment system, will still need to go through a process to identify an outfall, ideally at the Sandy, and whether that's after the natural treatment process or not. Even those facilities that we toured, they still had an outfall somewhere.
Yes, they did.
You still, once it's treated, the water still needs to go
Sure.
someplace.
But
There's
it's-
so much volume.
It's a better temperature and it's cleaner.
Yeah, and
Right.
we could do even a much less, great,
Yeah.
and better temperature and quality, even though that stuff coming out of a membrane bioreactor plant is, basically drinkable.
Right.
The concerns are totally understandable, and I think, again, in that facilities plan, it's identifying that we're gonna go through the permitting process for that outfall. And, the location can certainly change, how we do that, it's very, not intrusive, it's basically buried, you'll see a manhole or whatever, but, working with all the different stakeholders to make sure that outfall's in a location that makes the most sense, for all groups involved, it is certainly very important.
I guess I just wanna make sure, like, cause we're early on, before anyone's gotten too crazy, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So that outfall location, I know we own it right now, but that's a headache. That's a major headache and hurdle to this project moving forward.
Well, it's
So-
just, it's like someone said, it's a huge reason people move here.
Totally.
This is a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
One of the things that was identified while we're at this outfall location was that this Sandy River is a tremendous resource. It's one of the least developed rivers in the entire state. But we have very little history about that particular river in terms of temperature. And one of the biggest things that everybody's concerned about is how much temperature is going to be put into that river, whether it's going to be a heat or it's going to be a cold. Because one of the things that is really a pride part of the Sandy watershed is that the Sandy River is a coolant to the Columbia River. And anytime you get Columbia River cooled, that's a big thing for the whole state. Now, one of the things we were gonna try to do was to do some temperature testing.
Yep.
Has that started yet, or are we in that process of getting that going?
We're in the process of getting it going this summer. This month, we're getting the equipment and putting them in.
Relatively easy thing to do, relatively cheap, I understand.
Yep.
So
We're gonna work
that will
with
be
Spec on it.
something that the Watershed Council is really excited about, seeing that there's actually gonna be some history taking, and probably gonna be a long-term thing, right?
1 to 2 years,
We
is
need
that
a
what I
couple
heard?
years of
1 to 2
data.
years?
Yep.
And then we'll want to do after we get put into whatever happens, the outfall happens, so we can see what the results are and monitor,
Mhm.
so I see things happening for a long time.
We're also holding out
Positive thing.
hope for state funding to do the temperature analysis and the green alternatives analysis to really dive into what it would take, what it would cost, how those negotiations and real property transactions stuff would take to look at ideas like the Roslyn Lake and other outfall.
One thing before we jump into the next tour location is that the mayor and I have been talking about the possibilities of doing one of the things that happened at next couple of tour locations. And maybe we can come back to this, Matt?
Sure,
When we get done to that point? Okay, so let's go on to the next.
This is the MBR plant.
So, yeah, this is the big one, that's the MBR plant at Oregon City. They're leagues ahead of us in terms of the number of million gallons per minute. They can do something like 25 or 30 million
Yeah.
gallons, and we're hoping to get to 7. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to get. But the thing that I saw there is that they have this straw process. I don't know if you've got a picture of the straws there.
I
or
didn't
not.
get a picture of the straw.
Oh,
I
great.
got a
All
picture
those-
of the other MBR.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, what happens is they push all this treated stuff through a bunch of straws. You can imagine a whole bunch of long white straws for about, 6, 8 feet long, and all that stuff gets squeezed through that
Paper straws or plastic?
plastic straws. Yeah, I know,
Yes.
that's the way it
To
is.
be outlawed.
But they're not
Yes.
single use. They're gonna be used, they said that could use them for 10 years or more, so.
Of course.
10 years worth of use, maybe we could squeeze by the rule in there. Relatively low smell and this kind of thing. There was very little smell. I really liked the idea that it was fairly quiet. You didn't have to worry about the neighbors being able to smell it or hear it, and very clean, I gotta say. I
So
was
clean.
impressed.
Very
I
Operation, yeah.
think they had seven
Seven operators. Yep.
for the entire thing.
Yep.
Who operates them? Do they have a contract with someone, or are they employee,
They're employees.
their own
Yeah. So
district? Okay.
this is a look inside the actual MBR. Underneath that grate here is where the bioreactor membrane is located, and under that grate you can see all the flow that is getting filtered through the membrane. There's multiple times it has to circulate, and it basically by pressure and suction, it's pulling the water out through these, microscopic, porous, membranes, and the water that comes out of that, the filtration is so fine that the water is like almost pure coming out of there.
These
But it's
straws
all
are
in-
smaller than the regular straws. They're talking maybe half the size of a regular straw.
It's like the
all
ones
that
with those
water.
coffee cups.
Yeah.
10 million gallons, I think, a
Stir
day was
straws.
going through all those straws. So,
And so these are the reason we picked these tours is this is the type of technology that we're considering for that old city shop site. And like Councilor Exner said, the smell with the scrubbers and that it's enclosed, and the fact that our MBR would be the liquid waste while we continue to use our existing plant for sending the solids down, you really wouldn't have any smell, and it'll all be self-contained into a pretty small building footprint on a 5-acre site, which presents some opportunities for, other uses there.
Is that true, Carl? Would you sit outside this plant and eat your lunch?
I would.
Yeah.
In fact, I
Would
would
you
take
sit in
John
line?
there, and I would make sure that he would stand there. I think he
Well,
could stand it.
That was a stark difference between our plant, this plant, and even the Dundee one that didn't have the covers.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
it's yeah.
We'll get a picture of it.
Well, this is a few years old. Ours is like 50 years old,
Right.
so.
Yes, right.
Right.
Ours smells like lunch.
So we
Someone's
went to
lunch.
the Dundee plant, which is 4,000 people and some wineries, which is kind of an interesting twist into the Dundee plant. They were doing about 3 million gallons capacity a day, and we're talking about 7 or so when we get going through ours. So about half of what we would normally expect. It was the picture on the right there is their version of the straws, and so instead of having straws, they have these little bumps and channels and such back behind the white membrane. And so they're squeezing water down through that, and it comes out through the membrane, I guess. I didn't get a chance to swim in the water to find out what was going on there, but it's the same sort of process, but a little different structure. One of the interesting things, this is their main building on the bottom part where they were doing a lot of the screening and pumping and moving things around. One of the things I was concerned about this one is there's a noise in there that was really loud. I would not sit there and eat my lunch for sure, nor would I want to have my house anywhere close to that. But they did say they could pull the insulated doors down and make it much less, but I didn't hear anything that I was very happy about as far as noise level goes. So.
I agree with that, and even with, you know, closing doors, it's like how many times a day do you need to open it? Like,
right.
How much is it?
It isn't even always so much the smell, it's just the thought of being around everybody's poop.
So this
I
picture.
think vacation is Disneyland.
Carl's not telling you, but he's eating a sandwich in that photo.
That's right. That's my sandwich I got in my hand. No. This is the top of that structure. What we looked at just before was the underneath part where the pumps were. So you picture about a 20-foot tall, maybe 40 feet wide by 80 feet long concrete structure. There may be a picture of it coming up in a little bit.
So this is the roof?
This is the roof. This is where the different tanks are that they are going to be treating the slush. They're filled with air and they're pumping them and slushing them and screening them through those screens that I showed you earlier. And I'm standing there and I can't really smell the smell when I'm standing there. There's a little soil smell, I guess.
Yeah.
What would you
Well,
call
so
it?
Dundee has a lot of property out there. They had their existing treatment facility that was already there. They had the traditional solids and pools and all that. So you get a lot of that smell because they're doing the solid treatment out there, and also because it's such a big property, it's open and they don't have any scrubbers or anything like that. So they do things probably a little bit differently than we did. The Tri-City plant was basically at this level in terms of investment. Big, huge population base. I don't know if it's a Cadillac, but it's pretty close. Dundee did a lot of more, the budget
Economical
level.
route.
Yeah, cost saving measures and things like that.
I thought they were about $10 million is what they said, 9, 10 million.
Yeah, and there was a difference. They have one operator, and they run public works out of there too. So the difference in maintenance and all that was kind of apparent. But lessons for us to take back to.
But they're doing what, half of what we would be doing?
Yeah, well, there are 4,000 people. We're about 11 or so, so take the difference. Their capacity could be up as high as what we would expect to have to go through our system in the wintertime, so they'd be maxed out. So I was told by, what was his name? Justin? Jared. No, not Jared, the other one, the one that led us around from Murray Smith. Preston, there it is, yeah. He was telling me that building would be about half the size as ours would be for one, the first entry level, so. And then the water all leaked out, went down into a tank, this section of tank, but into a big reservoir. You can see that, what looks like handrails there, that's their outflow device. And it was, I don't know, a couple, 3 acres in size, something like that.
So it
Pretty
sits
deep.
in a big pond before it then goes down a channel out into the Willamette.
So their outflow is eventually the Willamette. Is
Correct.
Tri-Cities the Clackamas or the Willamette?
Willamette.
The Willamette. Okay.
Now, I will say for this location, I actually did eat my lunch there. As we all did.
No, wait, not, oh, this location, yeah.
this next- yeah,
Before we leave the other one, I wanted to
Oh, well,
kind of
we're on
compare.
this one, but okay.
Because I'm gonna talk about this in the other, here, they said their water entering the Willamette River was about just a little higher than 60 degrees, which is a really good temperature, which is not what the next one will be, but 60 degrees, so keep that in mind.
So it has to be 55 going into the Willamette by Three basin rule.
The sea lion are probably killing more.
The
salmon than
Clackamas is the
Willamette.
three basin rule, but I don't know if the Willamette
I don't
is.
think the Willamette is.
Than the blue water.
It's, he said it was just above 60 degrees is what was going into the Willamette River.
Okay.
And
The
that was a
Willamette's
cooler.
got plenty of other bigger problems with mercury and PCBs and dioxins, so.
And
You
they,
got limits on how much fish you're supposed to eat out of that river.
one other thing to remember on the old, on that Dundee plant is that there was one guy that needed to be able to be there, and it probably wouldn't be much different than for us.
nobody knows anything.
And he had this iPhone app that watched everything. And so when things go awry, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's supposed to signal him, and he's supposed to get up and go take care of it. But he's got some supplementary work from the waterworks people too, so, but one operator, which wouldn't be too much different than ours. So we headed over to Fern Hill, which was a facility of about 750 acres. It dumps from places like Hillsborough, Forest Grove, a whole bunch of little small burgs that are less than 2.5 people.
It's beautiful.
But they're talking 600,000 customers go into this 750 acres.
This is in Forest Grove?
This is in Forest Grove, right?
So it's not just Forest Grove, it's
Hillsborough,
Hillsborough,
Exactly right.
600,000.
the west
people.
side.
It's managed by Clean Water Services.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they turned this into as a wildlife preserve as well?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
amazing.
it was
Yeah,
a
it looks
wildlife
like it.
preserve before.
Oh, okay.
In fact, Jared, who was the manager of the plant kind of things, he said that they had quite a bit of history and friends of and all that sort of thing before this was turned into the outflow from all these different structures. And they were very worried about what it would do to the bird watching and the
So,
plants and all that kind
Go
of
back to
stuff.
that last picture. So he built that.
Yes.
And basically, this was his mock-up, and said, well, if you all like this, you're really gonna like everything else that we do,
Gotcha.
right? And so we kind of did phase 1 and used that to really sell the rest of the community and stakeholders on this path forward.
And we did eat lunch there, by the way. It was very nice. No smell, not at all. Really nice place to be. Very enjoyable. I think there were kids coming in, not that day, but
They have running trends.
crowds of buses, grandmas, grandpas, people coming in from all over the United States, really, they tell me, but certainly it's a great place to see birds. Wonderful spot.
Wow.
Yeah, recreation,
Mhm.
walking, running, bird watching, education. We saw a class, kids were there with a class learning about treatment and wetlands.
Wow.
and- Yeah.
So the only hurdles here would be, Carl, you're smarter at this stuff than I am, but the temperature coming out was only
not good.
was like in the low 70s
Yes.
to mid 70s.
I said, remember that 60 from before?
Yeah.
This one was in the low 70s. And
So we're still
I
gonna
kept
have
thinking,
to
Cool.
cool it or figure out a way.
he also had the tualatin that he was dumping into, which is the size of the Tickle Creek. So pretty small, very hot, lots of
Tualatin
sunshine.
was the size of Tickle Creek?
That's what he told us. Pretty small.
That must be at the headwaters, because the lower end's bigger.
Got me. All I could tell you was he said it was a pretty small place. And that 72 or 3 degrees was acceptable, which I really struggled with that. That was a pretty hot water going in there. But a lot of this stuff is less than 4 or 5 feet deep. What I was gonna go to is, this place had been dredged out from centuries, like almost decades anyway, in the past. And so they just turned this old dredging, wetlands into something that went from these plants. And they weren't all these MBR plants. They were some of the basic old technology kind of plants like our old plant has. And they end up getting them into these places, and they were using the plants and the water and the different levels and the waterfalls as a way to screen all that. And so by the time it got to the outflow, I don't know if we got a picture of the outflow or not, but it's a pretty good gulp of water going on the outside. I don't remember what they said that was happening at that time, whether it was 4 or 5 million gallons a day, but it was a pretty good sized river going on the water.
Wow.
So a project like this is that budget note that we have for the green alternatives that Jordan was mentioning. That's kind of what that would be focused on, this kind of a program.
One thing I have to say is it really impressed me was the economic developer for Forest Grove told Jared that when this thing got developed from what it was before, just a bunch of dredge, and people were visiting it and doing bird watching and all that sort of thing before it got put into effect, they saw a horrendous leap in their tourism accounts, people visiting, coming in, spending money and all the rest. And the part that really I loved, this is the part everybody makes you smile, they had planned on spending $30 million to do some sort of treatment of all those, and it turned out to be $16 million. I love it.
Yeah.
If I could have the money going out of this place, I think that's,
So this was a wetland already before they started using it
Yes.
to feed into it, and it's pretty flat,
Mhm.
right? So they had kind of the
Yeah,
geographic
pretty
area to
flat,
do
yeah.
this with.
The other interesting part is that it's clay, so there's not a lot of like the ground seepage, which we assume will be similar here.
That's right. So that's what Roslyn Lake's gonna look like.
Yeah.
So Roslyn Lake sold to somebody
Yeah.
back in March?
Trackers.
Okay. So.
yeah,
it
I've
may
had a
not
couple
be
of conversations,
ours.
not with them, but with some people who know them a lot. And so we need to reach out to these guys and find out if they're gonna be willing to
What their plan is.
compromise with us. Sell, if we're not gonna get a sell, we have to have something like a 100-year lease, or, I don't know, some 200-year lease. We're not gonna get into the, going to 25,000 people, 30,000 people and have our lease expire, and then what do we do
Mhm.
in 20
Or
years? We'd have to do something that was.
Do a study of the area, what
Mhm.
is best out.
Figure it out. All right, cool.
So, can we go back to the very first picture? And then, real quickly, and I'll get off my thing. So, I don't know if you can circle that, Jordan, where the, those wetlands are that we were talking about behind Skipper's property, over there, go left, there we go. All that property, that particular piece of property has a lot of potential to become very similar to what's going on at Fern Hill. And I would like to have at least us think about maybe doing some of the similar kinds of things. But right now, it's a completely undeveloped piece of property, has a lot of the same kind of conditions now, it's a lot of wetlands.
How many acres is that, Carl, do you know?
The big piece that is around where Jordan's
The large
arrow
plot
is
there?
about 20 acres.
Okay.
But we also own the uplands part of that,
Okay.
up by Bluff.
Uh-huh.
Skipper's properties back there, there's some potential for that if the development happens.
Cool.
One thing that Jared said that manages the Fern Hill place is that he said he would be more than happy to come up and walk through anything that might look like what we're gonna do for that. The Roslyn Lake piece, maybe this piece, that kind of stuff. I guess he's a pretty advocate fisherman off the
Mhm.
Salmon River, so, or the Sandy River, excuse me. Yeah,
Must be good then.
must be good.
Must be good.
So,
Nice.
All right.
That's exciting.
Any objection to me closing the council meeting for exec? All right. Gonna close it. We'll recess for like 2 minutes and then come back for executive session.